away with you. Forever in my mind, only you. The pieces in my life run away with you. You're my first love. You're my first love. You're my first love. You're my first love.
Good evening everybody and welcome to live coverage of this, the penultimate round of the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series. This is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the Yas Marina circuit, and we are poised for what is set to be a thrilling championship fight. We have a three-way fight in the championship, and it all could come down to what happens in tonight's race that could decide if the championship goes to the final round in Brazil or if it gets settled here under the lights in Abu Dhabi. I'm Scott Woodwiss, lead commentator for tonight's event, and alongside me in the commentary box for tonight's event it is James Tucker. So James, let's talk about what's at stake here tonight. It's a tie in the championship so far between Peter Burlack and Rob van Starkenburg, but Burlack leads the way due to the fact that he is on more victories, 6 wins compared to Rob van Starkenburg's 3. But then in third place in the championship, 50 points back exactly as Martin Gosby, the early pace setter in the series back at the beginning of the season. And it's fair to say that he needs a big result here tonight, otherwise it's his championship over.
He needs more than a big result, he needs a win, and he also needs the other two to retire in order to even have a chance at the final race. So Gosby, it is a long shot, but you can still say it's a three-way battle. As for the other two, then the only way this isn't going to go down to the final race is if one of them wins and the other retires. In fact, I don't think even if Van Starkenburg wins and Burlack retires, it will go down to the final race. It's only if Burlack wins and Van Starkenburg retires can this be settled here at Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. Well, what happened, as we said, obviously they're tied on points going into this penultimate round of the championship, and we'll go through the championship standings just before we go to qualifying. So Burlack and Van Starkenburg are tied on 445 points each at the top of it. As we said, Burlack has those 6 victories. It's 5 in fact, not 6, I apologise about that. 5 victories compared to Van Starkenburg's 3. What's also intriguing on that is that they're on the same number of points, but Starkenburg's been a little bit more consistent because he has only failed to score once, and that was in Germany, compared to Burlack, who has failed to score twice. But he didn't turn up in Italy, and he didn't score in Monaco because he retired very early on in that race. Gosby has failed to score 3 times. Once in Monaco, once in Japan when he disconnected, and also the time when he didn't race in Germany due to the whole fracas with the World Championship race that he took part in at Silverstone. Malorqui in 4th place, 291 points, kind of on his own. That's kind of, I'd say, settled unless things don't really go his way and others seem to catch up. Mohamed Patel has done very well this season, has broken into the top 5 on 200 points, but he's battling with Zoltan Schutte, and Schutte has told me that he needs a good result to try and overhaul Patel and potentially get 5th place in the standings going into Brazil. Then we've got Cyril Vermeulen on 184 points, 20 points ahead of Antonio Kolarec, the Croatian, with 164, and then Eros Masculi in 9th. He's had some troubles, I know, recently in another league race he had earlier on this week, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And Nick Rowland rounding out the top 10, who had to start from the back of the grid tonight after a late allocation. He told me he's been very busy with work, and unfortunately due to that, he just completely forgot about the fact he had to allocate in time. Only did so at about 1:45 in the morning last night, so that's the only time he's able to do it, and he has to start from the back of the grid. But he does like this circuit. He's won here before in another league, and that was a race in which I commentated on, so that's a good omen. I don't know what is. Championship standings then going for the team standings. Precision Motorsports have 856 points compared to Twister's 780. So Burlak and Malok, we need to come up good, and they also need to hope that Precision have a bad evening here at Abu Dhabi. GT Omega are third with 320, so a huge gap back. They're battling with Venus Project Racing on 295. Then Crown Netrex in fifth with 278. Butter GP with 267. Then Biocross Positive with 203. There's a real scrap going on for 8th between Bashkara UAE on 190 points and Crown 7 Netrex Academy on 189. So 1 point either way could swing that. And then Ghost Speed rounding out the top 10 with 168. So all to play for really in the Drivers' Championship, which Teams' Championship a little bit spread out. But based on what we've seen tonight in this stuff, we're looking at how qualifying is going so far. It is Rob van Starkenberg fastest in his Q1 session by only 74 hundredths of a second from Edouard Malorqui, with, well, it was, in fact, a piece of Burlak just popped in a 1:38.258 to go quickest in the session. So at the moment, it seems though that everything is kind of going the way of the two-men title at the top of the championship, James. But so far, Gosby's down in 4th, but he was the early pace setter in practice, so if you can find a bit more pace, do you think he's got it in him to possibly take pole?
Yeah, certainly. Gosby, last year, in fact, in this race, did finish on the podium. His qualifying, he actually started from the back in that race. So Gosby clearly does have a lot of pace around this circuit. If he can perhaps harness that sort of speed that he got here last year and get a decent qualifying, then if he can get third from the back, then he can surely challenge for that win that he needs. But the thing is, even if he does get that win, there's no guarantees, because he needs retirements from the other two, which isn't likely considering how consistent they've been all year round. Last race out, of course, at Japan, Burlak, it looked like he was all slipping away from him. He had a poor start. Van Starkenberg was leading. He drove amazingly, Van Starkenberg, at the last race in Japan. He was completely dominant to win. But Burlak, it looked like he was all slipping away from him, and then he recovered all the way back to second place, and he kept himself right in this championship fight, right level with Van Starkenberg on points. So Burlak, perhaps he can carry a bit of that momentum over to this week and this race here in Abu Dhabi, and it's certainly a track Burlak likes. He did well here in the World Trophy last year on his way to that championship, for instance.
Are you sure it wasn't Singapore last time out instead of Japan?
Oh, yes, you might well be right. I can't even remember what track you were on. Yes, Singapore, of course. Not a problem.
Well, I see Martin Gosby, it's interesting that Burlak seems to be quick in sector 1, but then loses the time in sector 2 and 3, and we've got now, that's Gosby going across the line. He puts in a 1:38.5, 1:38.452, or 1:38.5 I think that was. He's about a 10th of his personal best. He's still in P4, so that will comfortably get him through to the to Q2. So currently it's Burlak top on a, in fact he's going quicker this time in sector, I think he's gone quicker, even quicker still in this on that previous lap, 1:38.258, so he's still quick at the moment. And coming out to the end of sector 1, he seems to be quick here, but loses time in the final 2 sectors, and that's what seems to be allowing everyone else to kind of close in. Now Van Starkenberg's popping across the line to start a lap as well. I can see Malorqui's on one as well. He's the car directly behind his teammate. Gosby then I think has come out of pits for an out lap. Best of the rest of P5 is Mohammed Patel. He is currently a quarter of a second, or just over a quarter of a second off of Burlak's pole time, but Burlak is ironically the car that's behind him. Then we've got in 6th position, we currently have Zoltan Schutte, who Patel is battling with P5 in the standings. Cyril Vermeulen, the highest of the 2 GT Mega cars. Of course, Roland has to start from the back of the grid, so there's no point in going out in any of the qualifying, in this qualifying session at all. So Vermeulen up in P7. Gennaro Celiento is in P8, with Danny Van Den Eet in P9. Spoken to him, and he's hoping for a good result as well tonight. And Antonio Colleret's in P10. So last-ditch efforts then, as the checkered flag I think has gone out, and the session timer has now run down. So this is effectively his last laps. And I think, I'm not sure if Gosby's missed a cut, because I think he has missed a cut, because he's out. He's not setting a time, so he hasn't got back out in time before the flag has hit zero, before the clock has hit zero. So Gosby will not get another time, and he'll have to go through to the next session in P4. But as Mohammed Patel's gone off near the end of Sector 2, I think. But what about anyone else is on a lap at the moment? Oh, an absolute Rob Van Starkenburg absolutely flying at the moment. He's up by a 1/10.5 on Burlak, but his turn in at the second to last corner wasn't all that good. He used a bit too much curve, but he heads to the final corner. Is it enough to go fast at the end of the session? Take the advantage into Q2. No, it's not. He loses time in that final sector. He was 8 thousandths up on his personal time, but he was off by just 65 thousandths of a second. So rather unlucky. And I can't see anyone else who's on a time. Colorex is going quicker and goes to P11. So he's been bumped out by David Franco, which is incredible time to see him pop up in there. And that's everyone out, I think. So top 10 as it stands then, James. Let's have a look at it. And it is Burlak on top with a 1:38.258. Van Starkenburg second on a 1:38.3. Then Malorku on a 38.4. Gosby then 5 thousandths behind on a 38.4 as well. Patel in 5th on a 38.42. Schutte on a 38.6. And then we've got Verdmuller, Celiento, Mandanese and Franco. So what does that tell you about the current pace? It seems though it looks as though that in terms of overall pace, Twister seem to have the outright pace on Precision at the moment, it seems. But it's very close indeed at the top, isn't it?
Yeah, and one thing I noticed at Singapore last time out was that Rob Van Starkenburg, he was on it straight away. He was so fast in every session. He looked hooked up. He didn't make a mistake almost throughout the entire race. Every curb, every apex he got. He doesn't seem to have that same air of dominance around him here, and Burlak might have sensed that, and I think Burlak can certainly feel that he can get the pole here in Q2. Starkenburg, of course, he's a quality driver. He can pull something out of the bag, but he just doesn't seem to have that same sort of real speed that he had in Singapore. He was just so perfect on almost every corner.
We're going to follow Martin Gosby for his first flying lap in this 5-minute session. Just a quick note for anyone who hasn't really watched this session, but the FSR World Series before and is unaware of the qualifying rules, that first session was an initial qualifying session to find the top 10 fastest drivers. They then go through to this second session. It's a 5-minute all-out session, so you can go as many times as you want. I actually believe either that or they get. I was trying to remember that. I can't remember their rules now. I think either they can go out as many times as they want, or they get one. I think they get one single flying lap in this one. It's one fast lap in Q2. Thank you for that, Jaakko.
Yeah, I think
just in my ear there. Yeah. Apologies, I got mixed up with another one. So Gosby then is now going to go out and set his one and only lap. And he's a man that's really under pressure. We talked about this, of course, because he, as we said, he needs to win, and he needs to hope that both Van Starken, his teammate, and also Burlak don't put in a good enough performance to overhaul him. But at the moment, he finished that session 4th, and his main championship protagonists were in the top 2. So really, he needs to pull something out of this single lap, and he's winding up to try and get this done. Who else is out there on the track? I can see Burlak is already out there as well, as is also Van Starkenburg and Malorku. But Gosby will be first across the set of time, and he will then lay down the benchmark. So let's ride with him then.
It's interesting that you say that he might be feeling a lot of pressure, because I think it's completely out of his hands. He needs them to retire. I think Gosby should be the one that has the least pressure on him this weekend. Burlak and Van Starkenburg are the ones that should be really piling pressure on each other, concentrating on each other. Perhaps Gosby can sneak away with a win, even if the other two finish and it doesn't do anything for him championship-wise. Gosby could still sneak away with a good result here if Burlak and Van Starkenburg concentrate on each other too much.
It's a very good point. It definitely could be the case, and we'll see exactly what the sector times are as they come up down towards the end of the first sector then. So let's have a look. That's about 35.8 or so from Gosby. He brakes hard at the end of the straight. These long straights will be very key for overtaking tonight. Pure slipstreaming opportunities here, and it's more of a real limited circuit. A lot of stop-start corners, a lot of chicanes in here. There are a few fast, high-speed corners that do put a little bit of strain on the tyres, but not too many. Like this huge braking zone here, and then the sweep as you go through. Then 10, 11th, and 12th, you hop over the curves one by one, and then the very tricky left-hander of 13. I think he clipped the bollard on the inside there as well, so that might have compromised his line.
Certainly the curbs do seem to be a big fixture in this track, more so than in real life, I'd say, in FSR, which, may I say, it looks absolutely amazing. Singapore, last time, Singapore, looked great, but this one just looks fantastic on FSR. They do a really good job, and look how much Gosby takes the curbs there. They really do abuse them in these cars.
Well, we'll see just how much that abuse has helped him out. Across the line he goes as a 38.3. It's not a bad time, but we'll have to see how that works out. Now, currently, I can see Burlak is actually down by almost a tenth and a half, so he needs to find something in this final sector. He was down in the first sector, so can he find anything in sector 2? Let's see if he's actually managed to find anything at all. Van Starkenberg is down by half a tenth. Malorkby's down by almost 3/4 of a, by 8.5 tenths. So Burlak is done better, and he lost time. So Gosby has come big when he needs to. Now, can Burlak pull out an incredible final sector to try and overhaul him? Let's see what this brings up then. So Peter Burlak, championship leader. Round the final corner he comes. I don't think he'll leapfrog in for pole position. He won't do it. It's a 38.5, so he doesn't manage it. Second place to Peter Burlak then. Malorkby went third with a 39.2. Van der Neat fourth with a 30. Hasn't set a time, I don't think. No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. 39.4, sorry. So Van Starkenberg, how is he on this lap at the moment? He's only off by a tenth, so he can just find something in this final sector. He might just make it a precision front row. Sure, it will be.
Strange turn there for the final corner.
But in which order? Absolutely took the ball off with him. 39.3 is not good enough. He misses out on pole by almost 0.02 of a second. So Gosby has taken pole at the most crucial time as Patel now heads down towards on his lap. He's currently at only about 700 off, but there's a mistake at the chicane, and Kett did very well to keep it out of the barriers, but that's ruined his lap, and he will have to abort. Either that, we might just finish it for the hell of it.
Too much curb, perhaps?
Look like it. Zoltan Schutte now for Netrex heading around the final corner. What can he do? It's going to be a 39, I think. Oh, in fact, he aborts it just before he gets to the line, so he knew it wasn't going to be a good time, so he doesn't even bother going to finish it. Gennaro Celiento and David Franco haven't set their times, and Patel is going to head into the pits as well, so he's not even bothering to finish his lap. So that was an intriguing qualifying session, but it ends up with the following order, and it's Martin Gosby who takes pole here in Abu Dhabi in a race where he really needs to win to stand any chance of taking the championship to Brazil, and stand any chance of that one. Rob van Starkenberg will start alongside him, so it's another precision front row with Burlak in third. Stuart Vermeulen up to P4. Great effort from him up there on a 38.8. Then Malorkby on a 39.2 and Van der Neat on a 39.4. He's very pleased with that qualifying. And then we've got Patel, Schutte, Celiento and Franco all decided not to set times or abort their laps.
So it's not really. If one of them finished, then they would finish above the other ones that doesn't finish. So what reason could they have for not finishing their laps?
Well, they might not have felt that maybe they were competent enough or they were quick enough to make a challenge somewhere at the top. So they may have cut some corners as well. So if that's the case, they may have thought, well, this lap's not going to count, so they may have pitted in and aborted it anyway. Some of these guys are through to this Q2 session for the first time, so that they might have felt a bit of pressure. Didn't really think that they were possibly going to get the lap together because they were thinking, it's all down to one lap. They weren't in the session where they were able to do multiple laps at the same time. So this might have been something maybe they thought it's a bit strange to them at all. So I don't know, maybe they might have felt the pressure a little bit and decided, you know what, I'm in the top 10 regardless. I'm not here every day, so I'm going to take the top 10 wherever I might finish, and just go from there and try and build in a strong race. That focus might be on the race more than qualifying.
For instance, David Franco could have just driven around as slow as he wants, and he could have been up from 10th to 7th. So it does seem a little odd to me, but I guess if that's their strategy, like you say, the pressure could have been on. They didn't want to do anything too bad, or if they cut corners, then they don't want to incur any penalty or anything like that. Well, it just doesn't cap the lap, does it? But yeah, like you say, it just seems a bit odd from someone like Franco. They didn't decide to make up places like that.
I did see something in the chat. Chris de Jong points out apparently that Zoltan Schutte did 3 laps in total on that one. So there's suspicions that he may have done two timed laps or 2 attempts at it. I'm not 100%, and maybe the race directors will have to have a look at that one if possible, now that Chris has raised that one. But car's now heading out for the 10-minute warm-up session, and we'll take this opportunity to go ahead. Also as well, of course, we are streaming on YouTube for you guys, so we have our our comments in the chat, so if you guys do want to post your questions and any kind of shout outs and your thoughts on the race and anything that might be going on this weekend, maybe in real Formula 1 and possibly for the upcoming races in World Trophy, World Championship, please do. And we'll do our best to endeavour to read them out for you and answer the best as we can. But until then, for the moment, we're going to step away for 2 minutes and allow our main sponsor, Thrustmaster, to play a short little advert to promote their senior product, the T500 RS Racing World. So, we'll see you back in 2. And welcome back to live coverage of this, the penultimate round of the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the Yas Marina circuit in the United Arab Emirates. And it is Martin Gosby who set pole position ahead of his teammate Rob van Starkenberg, with championship rival Peter Burlack down in third position. So, almost halfway through the warm-up then, and let's talk about the circuit itself then, James. Circuit that's been around since 2009, and it's one which I think it's fair to say the drivers enjoy actually driving on, but in terms of a spectacle, in terms of racing for the fans, it's not always been the greatest. So unfortunately, it's a circuit that has kind of a contrast between what the drivers think of it and what the fans think of it. Some drivers don't particularly enjoy it, some do. I personally quite like the circuit and the way it drives. Some find it quite boring, there's not too many overtaking opportunities. So it really is a tale of two circuits, really, a tale of two kind of stories between the fans and the drivers.
Having said that, I seem to remember a good race last year in FSR, at least. Of course, Formula 1 itself is quite a different matter. But certainly FSR, I seem to remember some good races at this Abu Dhabi circuit, and you'd think so. It's kind of one of those circuits that seems to be set up perfectly for overtaking. There's the long straight between 7 and 8, there's the long straight between turn 9 and turn 11, and then there's the pit straight as well, and there's not particularly fast corners which kind of prevent you from being able to follow a car. So really, on paper, it looks like it's perfect for overtaking, but that doesn't generally translate to real life because of things like the turn 2, 3, 4 complex right before the long straight, which completely spaces out the cars. Other things like the really close follow the leader section in the middle of the track, as we're just watching David Franco make a mistake there. I believe that was in turn 4, perhaps. Yeah, right before the hairpin. But yeah, in real life it doesn't really translate, but I think in sim racing it's possible that it does translate, and that is possible to overtake here, and you can get good battles, because of course one thing that we often see is people battling down from turn 7 to turn 8, and then again being able to cut back and get them in the next long straight down to turn 11. Now, I'll just say one thing that Carlos Martin pointed out in the YouTube comments is that the tyre wear from Q2 saves over into the race. That could be one reason why we saw guys abandon their laps. Still doesn't really explain why people like David Franco chose not to run at all, but as Carlos says, perhaps that was just a strategical move, and they wanted the best tyres available for the races. David Franco, I'm on board with him. He's going everywhere. He's jumping right over the curves. Perhaps he just feels safe enough in his car to drive laps in Q3, because he seems to be all over the place at the moment.
I was actually unaware that the tyre wear from Q2 actually moves over into the race. I wasn't sure if our factor was something had the ability to have that programmed, or that was something that actually carried over. So that's quite intriguing. So that'd be quite interesting to see how those guys play on. There's also Schutte, of course. If he actually does start in the top 10, then he might be one of the better placed guys. And also Schutte has a knack for making good starts and progressing through the field pretty quickly. I remember back in the World Championship race in Korea, he started at the back of the field, and after about 2.5, 3 laps, he was up to about P8. And what was heartbreaking about that was the fact that he made, I think it was 2-stop strategy work, but unfortunately his engine gave out literally on the last lap. It was about 4 or 5 corners from the finish line. So it was a shame. He could have got himself some decent points, but fate and engine temperatures said otherwise. So that was a rather kick in you know where. As for practice times, Nick Rowland's actually pumped in the fastest lap time, 45.2, so he's clearly on the soft compound tyre. And of course, remember, he starts from the back of the grid for a late allocation. Basically what that means is that but you have to basically confirm your attendance in the race in either World Championship, World Series or World Trophy pretty much before, by I think it's 11:59 PM, the day before the race takes place. Effectively it's before midnight on the day of the race. Effectively he had to basically, should have allocated at 11:59 PM last night, Friday night, but unfortunately he allocated late because he told me he was working a lot recently, so he didn't have much time to test and allocate properly. He just completely forgot. So he will then start from the back of the grid, but Nick's never wanted to shy away from a challenge, so I'm pretty sure he'll try and relish that and move up through the field and try and consolidate his 10th place in the standing in the championship.
If it's any consolation, then Martin Gosby finished 3rd here last year from the back of the grid, so it is possible to get that podium if you start at the back even. Carlos Martin just pointing out that he says it's around 2 to 3 tenths difference, which is just 1 attempt in Q3. That's the amount it kind of slows you down on the tyres if you just make 1 attempt. So those guys that weren't making a run or abandoned their runs, that's the reasoning behind it.
Not a problem. Thank you for that, Carlos. It's good to see everyone interacting in the chat, and of course, like I said, any questions, any comments that you've got, or any shout outs you would like, then please do make sure to get them down in the chat. Shout out to my good friend Will Vincent. He's hopefully, I think he's tuning in, so good to see him. And he politely said on Facebook that my commentary sucks, but he's only kidding. So thank you for that, Will. Always the man who has a way with words, especially in these the kind of broadcasts I do with him. So this should be an intriguing race that's going to play out. Of course, as White's going to tick down the last couple of seconds, and Gosby it just makes it clear that he is the man at the moment as he puts in a 45.0 to go quickest in warm-up. Only 4 drivers have set times in the 45s. That's Gosby on a 45.0, Rowland on a 45.2, Van Starkenberg on a 45.5 and Mohammed Patel on a 45.9. Just outside that was Zoltan Schutte on a 46.0, so he's got plenty of race pace to get up there and mix it with some of the other guys. Some of the other championship protagonists, Peter Burlak is down on 46.7, so he's obviously thinking about the long game. Session has now come to a close, so we should be... And Rob Van Starkenberg right at the end there pumped in a 45.516, I think, in order to get himself into second place in the time. So the Precision Motorsports guys are the ones at the top of the tree. I've got about 30
looking
seconds.
fast.
Absolutely. And I guess now we should start making some predictions. So if you're going to make some predictions then for what is going to happen in this race then, James, it can be as wild as or as you know, as subtle as you like. How do you see this race playing out tonight? Because of course, as we said, Gosby needs to win this, and he needs Van Starkenberg and Burlak to have really poor races. Burlak can be champion if Gosby and Van Starkenberg do not score tonight, and Burlak wins. So there's everything to play for this. So effectively, a win can be very valuable for either Gosby or for Burlak tonight, especially for Van Starkenberg as well.
Yeah, Van Starkenberg would keep himself in it with any sort of finish, but he wants to stay as close to Burlak as he can. So what I think will happen is what I said earlier. I think Van Starkenberg and Burlak are going to concentrate on each other. And that's the right thing to do, because Gosby, they don't have to worry about him. They just have to finish in order to disqualify Gosby from any chance of winning the championship. Gosby, what he has to do is not worry about the championship. It's out of his hands completely. He has just to focus on this race, this track alone, and the race coming up, and he can then win. Because I feel those two will probably be looking at each other. However, team orders possibly could play into this. Do you think? Because if Gosby's leading with Van Starkenberg second, then that extra position would make a massive difference in the possibility of Van Starkenberg winning the World Championship.
Well, to be
World
fair,
Series Championship.
I mean, to be fair, Gosby's still in with a shout on this, so effectively team order shouldn't really come into play unless Gosby is completely out of the championship hunt. He's not out of it yet, so there's still a chance for him to do that, so I don't really see why Precision would have to bring that in if both drivers still have a chance.
But if it was the last lap, Gosby was just ahead of Van Starkenberg and Burlak was third, imagine it's the positions that they started, then surely if Burlak's going to finish, then Gosby is out of it. And all Gosby will be doing by stopping Van Starkenberg from winning will be limiting Van Starkenberg's chances of winning the championship. Just one way to look at it.
It's a good point, but of course it's never over until it's over, so Gosby might see how long he can get away with it. Let's quickly I'm going to do Will Buxton stuff from the back of the grid. So 18th from the back of the grid is going to be Antonio Colleretts with Nick Rowland 17th, and then we've got Armando Mora in P16, P15 Santiago Niza, Total Vassler P15, Christy Young P14, P13 Eros Masculi, P10 P11 is going to be Antonio Colleretts, and P10 is Daniel Franco, and I'll let James run out the rest of the grid.
Gennaro Sheliento, that's a good ninth place for him. That's not the sort of position we generally see him around, so impressive. Zoltan Schutte, quite an underwhelming performance, down in 8th place. Mohammed Patel will start in 7th place, Danny van der Neet in 6th, Malorki 5th, Vermuller in 4th, Burlak 3rd, Van Starkenberg 2nd, and Martin Gosby is of course on the pole position. So that's the position 1-2.
It is indeed. How long will it stay, if it will stay like that at all? Waiting for those lights. Here they come then. What's going to happen under the lights here in Abu Dhabi? We'll find out momentarily. 5 red lights ready for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lights out, and we're racing in Yas Marina. Good start from Gosby. Van Starkenberg will try and move alongside him. A couple of cars starting out on the inside, and looks as though Burlak will hold on for 3rd place. Very good challenging. They're side by side, a little bit of contact. And also Patel and Malorki were battling it out for P5. And I think everyone's got to be pretty clean at those first couple of corners. Rowland's already up to P30, moving past. Oh, he's in the wall already! Nick Rowland, he's in the wall already, but he's carrying on. A little bit of damage, I think, to his suspension. And he's now side by side with Armando Mora. Through the first sector.
Under threat here. Oh, Burlak was under threat, but then his teammate came to the rescue. It looked like he was under threat. Cyril Vermuller was pulling wide, but down this long straight, it doesn't look like he can get through. And in fact, Vermuller has to look backwards to Malorki now. And Malorki is going to pull out. Can he get the move done? Van Starkenberg taking a little look at his teammate there, and Malorki's right up the inside, and it looks like he's got that one done, but watch out because there's another long straight away. Certainly good for Twister to get those two cars together in 3rd and 4th. That would be a good kind of backstop, kind of rear gunner for Peter Burlak there in 4th place.
And that's Patel trying to go round the outside, and behind them as well, Juti and Franco going toe to toe. And look at Patel and Verbula, huge hip and shoulder between those two. And behind, look at there's huge fracas going behind. Juti getting involved, and so is Franco. And behind them, the two Netrex, look at the Netrex Academy cars, dueling it out with Mohammed Patel as well.
Patel just fallen like a rock.
It has six-way scrap going on for fourth place. This is fantastic. Top four already starting to break away though. And they're coming to the end of the first lap, and pretty much the order is reverse order in the championship in the top three effectively. It's Gosby who lead across the line, and for Van Starkenberg second, Burlak the champion leader in third. Then we've got Malorque in fourth, but this huge train of cars from Verbula in P5, but he's now dueling with Juti down towards turn one. Franco up to P7, a great start from him, one place up from where he started. Patel in P8, now under effect from both the Netrex Academy cars of Chris de Jong and Danny van der Neet. Then Gennaro Celiento from the back. Celiento is up there in 11th place ahead of Ostakovic in 12th, with his teammates Coloretz in 13th, then Masculi, Roland, Vasilev, and we've actually got two cars in the pits. We've got Santiago Niza and Armando Mora in the pits from there. That was only an 18-car grid, so two cars are at the back already. Now, back to the front, and Van Starkenberg is going with Gosby. They're pretty evenly spread out. There's about, I'd say, there's about half a second between the two precision cars, and a second gap between that separates Burlak from Malorque. And then we've got, of course, Verbula P5, who's now being tailed by both Juti and Franco, and the two Netrex Academy cars back in ninth, still going side to side. And that's de Jong and Van der Neet. So a bit of inter-team battling going on as they head down the back straight.
Taking the lead. Van Starkenberg's taken the lead down into turn 11. He's gone past Gosby, and that looked like Gosby didn't put up too much of a fight there. I hate to be a cynic, but that certainly wasn't defended too hard at all by Martin Gosby, and if so, then that's a very good teammate, because now he can stop Burlak, and he can eliminate Burlak from the race in this first stint if he does act as a rear gunner.
Well, Gosby's not actually letting him go too much. He's actually trying to stay on the rear of him. He did try and close right up onto the back of the braking zone as it headed into the hotel complex. And so a lead change then. Van Starkenberg will lead across the second lap. And is this inter-team dynamics? Is Gosby helping out Van Starkenberg? Does De Brit feel that his championship chances have already gone, despite the fact he's exactly 50 points away? 50 points for a win will give Gosby exactly the same amount of points effectively on paper, but of course, depending on where the other cars finish, he can close it in, but he'll be taking points off the cars in front, so it's not all over just yet. Burlak then is now on the tail of Gosby. Malorque's trying to go with him, he's falling back slightly, small gap, and then Verbula's bringing Juti with him in P5. There seems to be cars kind of pairing up at the moment, as behind I can see that Chris de Jong has pulled away from Danny van der Neet, his teammate, and now Van der Neet in the clutches of Gennaro Celiento in the Brem GP car, and Roland's starting to make his fight back through the field as well.
David Franco's under attack by Mohammed Patel after that awful start. Patel is up the inside, and he's got to defend off Franco down the second straight. Can he do it? Because Franco's picking up the slipstream, and surely he's going to go to the outside. Not the best decision perhaps, and that might have saved Patel. He's hugged that inside corner. Intelligent driving, and he's going to keep the position just about.
See now Burlak really giving Gosby the hurry up at the moment, because he's getting right onto the gearbox of the number 0 car. Of course the 0 because of course Gosby inherited that, if you like, lead Precision Motorsports seat after Jack Keithley was promoted up to the World Championship thanks to his win in this championship last year. And of course now this is intriguing. I think this might be a bit of precision team play coming in here. As you said, James, I think that possibly Van Starkenberg is being allowed to run away with it. And Gosby, even though he feels he can get some more points to take them away from Burlak, keep himself in with a chance here. Now then, behind, Patel is under fire again from Daniel Franco. So this battle for 7 is not over just yet. So they head through turn 1, and Patel seems to have the measure at the moment, but Franco can close up. Oh, with de Jong! De Jong in the background, very lucky not to put the car into the wall. Lost the rear end. We can get a quick replay of that, possibly from Jaakko, maybe. But de Jong lost the back end through turn 1 slightly. He had to stand on the anchors and almost pitched it into the wall on the inside of exit of turn 1. So he's managed to keep the advantage ahead just about from Danny van der Neet. Now what's happening at the back, just looking for Nick Rowlands. He's back down in P15 and now on the back of Eros Masculi. in the Pescara machine. And looking back, the other two cars, but I believe that's the only Pescara car in the field. So Pescara only represented by one car in this evening's race. And back ahead for P2. Burlak on the rear wing of Gosby, all over the back. He's going to dart to the inside. This is for P2. Can Gosby try to sweep around the outside? Burlak's there, there's contact. And Burlak has to back out of it, and that's now checked him up into Malorqui. And, I don't know, if we can see a replay of that, I'm going to try and grab that. I can't grab one on my screen, unfortunately.
Gosby knows his job. His job for the team is not to let Burlak pass at any attempt. He's got to keep Burlak behind him as long as he can, if not for the whole race, because that will greatly increase Rob van Starkenburg's chances of winning the championship next time out in Brazil. And Gosby, he knew that was what he had to do, and he closed the door, basically. He closed the door quite abruptly on Peter Burlak, and Burlak won't be happy. Burlak will be incensed by what happened there, I think, and he'll have every right to be. Whether the stewards will think of that as a bad or illegal manoeuvre, I'm not sure, because it was kind of 50-50, you have to feel.
It was.
So I do think it was intentional.
You do think you do or you don't?
Yeah, I do think Gosby intentionally closed the door on him there, because he knows that's his one job today, to keep Burlak behind him as long as possible.
Well, I wouldn't have thought desperation would be setting in at this early point in the race to keep Burlak behind, because if he can play the strategy game, he possibly could try and outwit Burlak in that respect. But looking at the move, Burlak did have the inside line, but Gosby did have his nose in front. But you can argue that Gosby turned in and didn't really give Burlak enough room, because Burlak did have more than half of his car alongside Gosby. So there is kind of two sides to that one, in that Gosby did have his nose in front. Technically it was still his corner, but he probably didn't leave enough room as he could have done, and that in turn has now allowed, as you said, Van Starkenburg just to drive away a little bit. He now currently has a 2.5 second advantage over his teammates.
I'm not talking so much from Gosby's position that he has to keep Burlak behind him. I'm talking from Van Starkenburg's position. Even if Burlak does finish second, then Van Starkenburg, by the time he gets into second, will want to be as far up the road as he possibly can be. So Gosby, if he's racing for the team today, then his job is to keep Burlak behind him for as long as he possibly can.
We lost Chris de Jong, so after that small mistake a couple of laps ago, seems as though he's made another one at some point around on this lap. Had our first casualty of this race, and we are now down to 18 cars in the field from where we started. So, order then at the end of lap 5. It's Van Starkenburg who leads now by 2.5 seconds from Gosby in second, with Burlak now running in third position and teammate Malorqui in fourth. And apparently Chris de Jong actually spun into the wall. So what he tried to avoid doing a couple of laps ago, he has actually done now and failed to do so this time around. So hard luck for Chris de Jong there. P5, Cyril Verbiel, he actually pulled away from Zoltan Schutte now, after a few laps of solid driving and a little bit of clean air. So Schutte's doing everything he can to try and keep him in touch. And likewise with Patel and Franco, that battle has calmed down a little bit. So it's 7th and 8th now for the Englishman, and then Daniel Franco behind. David Franco, sorry, in P8. And Danny van der Neet, and now the sole remaining Netrex Academy cars, having to fend off both Gennaro Celiento and Nick Rowland's up now up to P11, so he has now got past both Antonio Colleretz and Eros Masculi since we last saw him. So Rowland now, in what is a fairly small field, has a good chance here of potentially cracking the top 10. Whether or not he's actually carrying damage from that collision on the first lap and then opened a couple of corners remains to be seen, but if he is, he's doing a great job of coping with it.
One thing I was talking about with Lewis last time out in Singapore was that Zoltan Schutte hasn't adapted as well as Peter Burlak has to this World Series. Peter Burlak has gone in, he's gone straight into the championship hunt, he's winning races, whereas Zoltan Schutte, who did win races last year in the World Trophy and was perhaps at times the only man to match Peter Burlak in the World Trophy last year, just hasn't seemed to be able to match him on this step up the ladder. He hasn't seemed to be able to stay close to Peter Burlak and how well he's running down there in 6th, getting dropped by Cyril Verbiel. It's not the sort of race you would have thought he's going to have when you look at perhaps how well he did last year in this series, in the World Trophy Series, and when there's great drivers like Burlak in that series as well to compare him to.
I will say something, Gosby, that last time around, actually lapped quicker than teammate Van Starkenburg, because looking at that, I think it was a 45... In fact, what's intriguing, the fastest lap of the race so far has been a 45.415 by Van Starkenburg, and last time around, Van Starkema did a 45.4. Always Burlak gets a lot of oversteer and wheel spin on the exit of the turn 5 hairpin as he heads now down towards. That's probably turn 7 hairpin, I think. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. Apologies. So he's now lapping a little bit quicker. Let's look to P10, and Cheliento is moving to the inside, so he feels as though he's under attack from Roland, but I don't think Nick's actually that close enough to make a dive. Just moving around behind the Brem GP driver, just to try and distract him a little bit, to force him to look into his mirrors. Oh, and Roland spins! Oh, Nick, what have you done? Roland spins, loses the rear end, and he noses it into the wall. Front wing is gone, and as if this afternoon couldn't get any, as if this weekend couldn't get any worse from here in the World Series, after having to start from the back from the late allocation, then contact on the first lap. Now he has nosed it into the wall, and he's going to have to get himself to the pits as quick as he can, and he's having to cut across the chicane, and oh dear.
That's something only planes are designed to do.
Yep.
One thing I would suggest, we saw him spin earlier, we saw him make that mistake earlier as well on the first lap. Perhaps Nick Rowland's gone with a very aggressive setup that's hard to drive because he knew from the start that he was going to be starting from the back, so perhaps he went for a more aggressive, a more low downforce setup to try and facilitate overtaking, and that's why he's having these problems driving the car.
I can see that he's got some side pod damage on the right hand side, so that could possibly be a legacy of the contact, but on the first lap. But Roland then brings it into the pits, and yeah, this is not a good weekend for him. This is a shame, but he's done well this season to keep himself in the top 10, and some consistent points finishes have definitely tried to help him out, but you know, he's had it tough the past couple of races, and this hasn't helped him one bit, so hard luck for him. And where will he join out again? Well, I think he'll get out just in front of Santiago Niza, I think.
Just watching on board with Gerard Cheliento, he's right on the back of Danny van der Neat for 9th place, down the straight to turn 8. He was on the back, but Danny van der Neat seems to have extreme straight line speed. He's actually pulled away from Cheliento down the straight, despite the fact that Cheliento was in the slipstream. So those NetRace Academy cars have a lot of straight line speed, it would appear.
Back to the front, and Gosby now has Burlak back on his gearbox again. And we're noticing that Burlak is struggling to get the traction down out of that turn 7 hairpin. He's not finding it easy to get the power down on that one, so maybe that's going to burn up his rear tyres quite a bit, but obviously that if he continues to do that, he'll be at quite a disadvantage, and that will only let Gosby pull away and try and close in on his teammate. Now the gap at the moment, it's still stabilising at roughly around 2.5 seconds, so Gosby's doing enough to make sure that Van Starkema doesn't pull away at the rate at which he wanted to. Lap times last time around, what were they? 1:45.289 for Van Starkema, 1:45.352. But incredibly, Gosby and Burlak set exactly the same lap time, 1:45.352 to the 1,000. So these two have matched each other for pace for sure. Although behind, I can see Malorqui has been closed down by Simon Vermeulen. So, and he's kind of bringing Zoltan Schutte with him, because he's kind of is and kind of isn't, because he's staying close, but not close enough to make a challenge. So that's quite intriguing. 7th place is now still Mohamed Patel with David Franco P8, and then we've still got this duel going on for P9 between Danny van der Neat and Gennaro Cheliento. Cheliento again just darting out. So I think he's doing that to get out the cool air, because of course if you run, you know, smaller radiators on these cars, of course you have to make sure that if you're caught up in the dirty air, it'll just continue to, you know, build heat and overheat the engine, of course. So sometimes you have to kind of dart out so you can grab the cool air to kind of just run through the radiators to help keep the engine and the temperatures down. So it's probably what Cheliento is doing, and at the same time maybe causing a bit of a distraction tactic just to force Van der Neat to kind of be looking in his rearview mirrors and lose concentration on what he's looking at ahead.
Yeah, watching on board with Cheliento, it is weird how he seems to actually fall away in the slipstream. Now, like you say, that could be to do with overheating issues, but I think it's more likely to do with the fact that he's gone for a higher downforce setup, because watch now, in this middle section, he's closing up. Oh, big lockup from both of them there into turn number 17, that is. Look how they're closing. He closes up on Danny van der Neat in this middle twisty section where the high downforce is required. although he's completely mucked that up because of a few mistakes. And Danny van der Neat running very wide as well. They're both making mistakes. But I think he's got a slightly higher downforce setup perhaps than Danny van der Neat does today, and that's why he's kind of struggling to actually pass. He's getting right up close by the time they get through turn 7 hairpin, and then he can't actually do anything with the motionless down the straight because he doesn't have the speed.
Well, it is crucial to try and find that balance between how much wing do you go for. Do you go for the... Because, of course, for the most part, this is a very twisty circuit, but you do have those 2 long straights, which do dominate the back of the circuit. So you have to kind of think and find the compromise in that, you need the aerodynamic coefficient down the straights to be able to maintain the top speeds, but at the same time, you need both the aero and the mechanical grip to help stabilise and haul the car through the twisty sections on this Yas Marina circuit.
In terms of new, I believe they're called Tilkedromes, the Yas Marina compares a lot, I think, to Korea in terms of the setup compromise you have to make, because in Korea those 3 long straights and then the rest of the lap is a very twisty turn-in high downforce one. I think it's quite similar actually at the Yas Marina, and that's kind of why people say that they are Tilkedromes, that they're all quite similar in style, and certainly India, where F1 is racing, is another one where there's a big setup compromise need to be made. And I think they set it up like that to make it a challenge for the teams. Although it sometimes doesn't present the best racing spectacle because there's very follow your leader sections, I think they Tilke designs them like that to make challenges for people when they're trying to set up these cars.
Nick Rowland doesn't seem to be carrying too much damage, or whatever happened to him, he seems to have gotten over it. He's pumped in the fastest lap of the race so far, 144.468, and that'll be no doubt on a set of brand spanking new tyres, of course, as he made that pit stop to change his front wing. And what's intriguing now, battle for P4 going on. Now, Malorqui is only about 8-9 tenths of a second ahead of Verbule now, so he's keeping it. So the Dutchman's keeping Malorqui within touching distance. And likewise with Zuti, who's now been closed down by Patel, he's about 1.4 seconds away as they head on to the back straight once again for the 11th time out of 55. So that's battles going on in the middle of the top 10. Now back to the battle for second though, and Berlak is not allowing Gosby to run away with it, because the gap is now at half a second between the pair of them, and the gap at the front is still stabilising at 2.5 seconds. So it's kind of like they're trading lap times. Kind of like Gosby's doing enough to kind of bring Van Starkenberg back towards in one lap, then Van Starkenberg then pulls away a couple of tenths on the next. It goes back and forth like a seesaw effect. So Gosby got enough pace to keep Berlak at bay. And maybe that's the plan, just to make sure he keeps a consistent gap, so that if anything does happen, then Gosby can at least give some support. And of course, he's forcing Berlak's hand. He's forcing Berlak to push harder than he normally should do, because he's having to do that. And, now did Berlak just glance the wall? I think
he certainly came close, but you're right, he's making Berlak push harder than he wants to, and also in that dirty air, Berlak's going to use his tyres more, his engine's going to overheat more, he's just going to use up his car more following Gosby round. So I think Gosby could actually perhaps run a little bit faster than this, perhaps even try and catch Starkenberg. But I think Gosby is playing the good teammate here today, and he is probably just keeping Berlak in his mirrors to try and make him use up his car, so he's not going to be a threat later in the race to Rob Van Starkenberg, who's at the moment on course to take initiative in the championship.
That time was last time around, and Van Starkenberg was half a tenth slower, but they both did 45 zeros. It was 45.021 for Gosby and a 45.078 for Van Starkenberg. Now comparing that to Berlak's last time, a 44.8, so 2 tenths quicker than both the precision cars in front. Berlak's teammate Malorqui did a 45.5. Verbule put in a 45.5 as well, but his was fractionally faster. Zuti to put in a 45.6, 45.5 for Patel, Franco on a 46.2, same for Van der Neet also, with Cheliente on a 46.3, and then Antonio Colorat's 46.7, Mascudia 46.8, who has put his pit request light on, so he's due in for a pit stop, whatever reason that might be. Total Vasilev in the Netrex Tradition car, that's the car with the green elements, the green wings on it, in the Netrex colours, 47.2, Ostakovic on a 45.7, and Roland's still pumping in those fast times, 44.4, sorry. So doing the best that he can to try and close in.
Patel is catching up to Suti, I would think. It seems there's another setup compromise there, because even if it's not setup, then perhaps it's style, because Suti pulls away a fair bit through turn 14 to the final corner, that sort of after the 2 straights, that sort of section. But then it would seem that in the first section of the lap, that's when Mohammed Patel catches up. So there's certainly a room for style and setup compromise between these drivers.
Berlak is certainly faster. He was again another 10th faster again, and once again shown the incredible consistency in these lap times and just how equally matched the 2 precision cars are. They both again did 45 zeros. There's only about a 300th of a second in it, so this is key. But Berlak is getting very close to the rear end. This could be the chance, and Gosby got a little bit loose on the exit, got his rear wheels on the AstroTurf and over the curb, and Berlak is in the toe of the Brit now, down the first of these 2 long back straights. And Berlak is going to surely have a go. If not, it's the first part, the second part darts out to the inside.
He shouldn't have done that. He should have waited. No. But he might still be able to recover this, because Gosby has a small rear lock up there. So look at the exit from Gosby. I thought that Berlak perhaps dived in a bit too much in that turn 7 hairpin. He has to try and stay wide, try and pick up that exit speed. Look at him trying to get in the rear mirror of Gosby. But at the moment, I think that he's not driving like he should be. He should perhaps be not going for these half chances. I always think that. I always think, why do drivers go for all the half chances? It only works on distracting the less experienced drivers. I think someone experienced like Gosby won't be fooled by all this darting around in the background.
They have to be careful of the track limits as well, because they are using quite a lot of them, and just places like there, when Berlak's using a lot of the exit curb and the AstroTurf on the exit, you have to be marginal on that one. You use it too much and you can get warned and eventually get yourself time penalties for exceeding the track limits and what they call track extending. And there's a big clampdown on that one in real Formula 1. And a lot of drivers in the Indian Grand Prix qualifying session did a lot of that apparently in the last couple of corners. And Gosby very loose on the exit of turn 1. And that may give Berlak the chance he needs as he sweeps through turns 2 and 3, through the kink of 4 and down towards the 5 and 6 little chicane here. He'll glance over the curves one by one.
He's got to stay hooked up here. Here's the key corner, that chicane.
And onto the back straight they come then. And can Berlak get a better exit? Seems as though he slightly could. A little bit of rubber laid down from the rear wheels of that Twister racing car. Look at the rate in which they pulled away from Malorqui in the background, because Malorqui is doing enough to keep Vermuller at bay. But Berlak needs to close down in this braking zone and take a better and faster line through here. Gosby seems to be much more superior on the throttle, it seems, than Berlak. But Gosby seems to have more confidence putting his foot down on the exit of the corners than Berlak does. And maybe that makes you wonder whether or not Berlak's car is maybe set up to be a bit more oversteery, and there's not as much downforce and rear mechanical grip that he'd like to, as Gosby goes a little bit too much over the curb, runs slightly wide. And another twitch as well.
One thing I definitely noticed about these guys is that Gosby is running that extra wheel length extra on the exit of the corner. He uses all that AstroTurf on the exit of turn 7, which Berlak stays well clear of. Berlak stayed well within the track limits on the exit there, and it cost him. So I think perhaps that could be something to do with the driving style of Peter Berlak, much more smooth than Martin Gosby. But Gosby's kicking up all the dirt as well that goes right into Berlak's camera.
Gosby's got the car moving around quite a lot, and that could suggest that possibly, after only 14 laps, his tyres on his first stint may be starting to fall away from him at this point, kicking up more dust in Berlak's face and into his visor as they head through turns 2 and 3. And Gosby just holding on to these faster corners. The gap's now 3.2 seconds now between Gosby and his teammate Rob van Starkenburg, who of course he needs to win tonight in order to try and keep himself in the hunt for the championship. And all this time that Gosby's in front, it's just losing Berlak time. And look at how much of a wider exit that Gosby took off of turn 7. And
so
Berlak
much more
now,
tighter line for Berlak, definitely. He really does stay within the track limits compared to Gosby, and he's got the slipstream now.
down towards the brakes of a turn 8, up the inside. And Gosby again turns in. That's rather lenient. And they'll still go side to side on the exit, and boom, more contact. Berlak is definitely not going to put Gosby on his Christmas card list if he carries this up. We'll get another chance down towards the chicane here, down towards 10, 11 and 12. Will he dive to the outside this time? He will. But Gosby defends the inside line, rear end stepped out a little bit under braking. I caught that a little bit. And Gosby holds on for the moment again. But for how much longer could... Go on.
It's easier to defend into that turn 11 because there you can really hug the wall and you can take the inside because it's kind of just curving a little bit down to turn 11, so it's easier to defend there. So I think Gosby's thinking is if he doesn't let him pass in turn 8 in that heavy braking zone, then he can just about defend down to turn 11, and he does seem to have that confidence on the exit, which Burlak doesn't have. And like you say, he's using so much more of the track as well. Oh, big moment for Burlak, big moment. He went right sideways there.
So you can see these two are giving it everything they can. It's only the end of lap 15, so all this is allowing Rob van Starkenburg to extend a 3.7 second gap, but it's getting bigger by the lap by a couple of tenths. This
I was just about to comment, this is exactly what I thought wouldn't happen. I thought that Van Starkenburg and Burlak would be completely obsessed with each other, but instead it's working out perfectly for Van Starkenburg because he's manoeuvred it so that Gosby and Burlak are obsessed with each other and he can just run away, because if Gosby's tyres are going off, then that just proves what a great job Van Starkenburg is doing, because he's running faster laps and he's looking after the tyres better. And you can't say that Gosby's in dirty air.
As we look at the battle for P2, I've been noticing that Zoltan Schutte is once again closed in on Mohammed Patel. Those two are locked, of course, in the fight for P5 in the championship. And also, Vermuller has dropped Patel and he's keeping with Malorqui. So, effectively, Cyril's saying, whatever pace you want to run, Edward, I can run it just as well. And he's keeping in within his striking range, should the Spaniard make a mistake. Back down towards turn 11 again. Look at how much curve on the entry Gosby takes, and that's almost kind of turning the car into the corner. So whether or not he's struggling with front end grip or something along those lines, I'm not 100%. And Schutte and Patel are fighting for 5th in the championship, so that fight is as important as the battle for the championship overall. So that's a fight we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the race. As now underneath what is supposed to be the hotel complex, Gosby keeping his nose in front and doing enough just to gap Burlak and just get him out of his slipstream for the most part. And back cross line they come again, and the gap's now gone to 4 seconds between the two precision cars at the front.
Burlak was much more careful through turn 20 that time by. He had a massive slip up there before. He was very impressive, he even managed to save it because he took so much curb on the entry that he had a big slip up.
Most definitely. I think. Oh, hold on. There was a bit of a
just these server problems.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a lag spike in there for everyone, but we've managed to, or at least us watching, had a bit of a lag spike. We've managed to carry on, and that was a little bit intriguing. I thought for a second we'd all disconnected, but thankfully we hadn't. So business resumes as usual. And Gosby then, last time around he was a 10th quicker than Burlak. Shows maybe his car set up to be a bit more oversteery than that of Burlak, even though Burlak does like to lay down a couple of lines of rubber on the exit of the hairpin. Down towards turn 11 they come again. And Gosby again, he's doing enough in this first part of the lap so that by the time they come down to under brakes for turn 11, Burlak is not in enough slipstream as Burlak gets very wide on the exit at turn 13 there, using all the AstroTurf and a little bit more, kicking up a little bit of dust in the process.
I'm watching on 4 with Burlak, and it's like they're both driving on an ice skating rink. It's crazy the amount they're both slipping around. And Van Starkenburg, if you watch him, he's on rails. So Van Starkenburg's doing an incredible job so far. Perhaps it's just the pressure that Gosby is feeling from Burlak, which is making him slip around. Or perhaps it is a setup or style difference, because right now Gosby is slipping everywhere and Burlak is following suit. It's like off every corner they just put down a bit too much power, trying to outdo each other. Perhaps they're trying to. Oh, look at Gosby, big wiggle off turn 1, and this is the key moment. Can Burlak close up in this sequence of corners before turn 7 and be close enough down the long straight?
Well, we'll find out under brakes for turns 5 and 6. This is the crucial corner. How much can he close for turn 7? And the answer is quite a bit. Look at that, how much tighter run through turn 7. He gets the wheel spin, and look at the exit, again a wide exit from Gosby. But Burlak now in the toe that he needs. If he doesn't get close enough to try and pass the first back straight, he can possibly have an attempt down the second part. What's his line going to be? He darts out to try and give Gosby something to think about. And switches back to the inside. Always he took too much curb on the entry for turn 9, but turn 8. And now he's
just got a bit greedy there. Just a bit too greedy from Balak, and that's going to cost him down to turn 11. He's nowhere near. But he nearly had it. It's just a few inches in that. If he'd gone a few more inches wide of the curb, then he'd have managed to hook up a really good exit there. It's that close between these two drivers.
Just continue to look again. And Malorque still in P4. Vermeulen holding on to P5 at the moment, and then Patel and Juti 6th and 7th. Daniel Franco kind of all on his own at the moment in P8. He's pulled away from Gennaro Celiento, and he's quite a way away from Juti, so he's kind of almost in no man's land, bless him. But he's doing a good job, and credit where credit's due. 8th position, solid run so far. And looking at the back of the field, I'm noticing Nick Rowland is lapping rather slowly. He has got past Eros Masculi, but apart from that, he's not running at obviously at the same pace, or at the pace he probably would like to ultimately. P13, he's obviously struggling, and of course he's had all sorts of problems this weekend. He allocated late, then he had collision on the first couple of corners. I think the damage on his right hand side pod did that one. Potentially we're thinking old soft tyres, but he did make a pit stop when he came in for the new front wing and changed the tyres. So obviously he went to the softs and potentially burnt them out. So his strategy has almost kind of gone out the window on that one, that respect. There's Danny van den Heet running very wide on the exit of the penultimate corner, I noticed. Antonio Colorex is in from what was P10. And I noticed also Vermeulen has his pit request light on, so he's going to be due in for a pit stop. And top 4, meanwhile, are still as they are, and no signs of them coming into the pits just yet.
Look how much extra curb Martin Gosby, if you caught that on camera, I'm not sure if you did, but Martin Gosby is almost into the support race pit lane when he turns in for turn number 11.
Burlak's pit light is flashing, so looks like we are expecting our first of the leaders to be coming in. It is going to be Burlak. So perhaps being stuck in this dirty air behind Gosby has caused him to burn up those front tyres a bit too much, and that's the reason why he's not been able to make as much progress as he wanted to. We expect him to keep to the right here, move into the pits, and yes he does. So Peter Burlak does then head into the pits from 3rd, and the Twister Racing boys will go to work, and he'll try and get an undercut here on Martin Gosby, I'm sure, as Gosby just flicked his pit request light on, so he's run a little bit deeper into turn 1. So Gosby now needs to have the lap of his life, whereas Burlak needs the outlap of his life, and he has got away. And Vermeulen just hit his marks as well. Very unique pit lane here at Abu Dhabi. Of course, they go through a tunnel on the pit exit and pop out the other side. And they
where's Burlak going to come out? Because that's very important. He's behind Suti by a little bit, and he's going to hope that Suti will have to pit in the next few laps before he catches up to him and gets into that dirty air.
But Burlak is, of course, for the moment in clear air, and he can use that to his advantage now. And of course, fresh tyres, slightly cold, but he can get them up to temperature now and use everything he can do at the moment. Now then, Van Starkenberg is due to pit as well. His pit request light is on, so Van Starkenberg, Gosby, Malorque also due to come in as well, and also Patel. But Juti's light is not on yet, so he feels he can go for a little while longer. So, effectively, Juti, as you said, provided that Burlak doesn't close in on him too much in this outlap, he is potentially the catalyst on this one. Because Juti will effectively...
Gosby's pushing so hard here on his in-lap, just as he needs to. He comes round the double apex, turn 15, turn 16, and then turn 17. It's apex after apex. It's almost like they tried to recreate a famous long twisting corner from Spa or something, and not quite worked, but it's still pretty enjoyable to watch. Gosby's pushing so hard, using all the curb he can. He's going to stay to the right here. Is he off? No, he's not. He's going to try and stay out another lap. Perhaps it was because his teammate was in the pits, or I'm not sure. But that could cost him big time, Martin Gosby.
Well, Van Starkenberg has just hit his box, so race leader is in for his first tyre stop. Malorque is going to carry on past, and he will take, I think, 2nd place. He's going to be close, because Van Starkenberg is currently 3rd, but is Malorque going to have enough to try and get past him? Yes, he will. Malorque sweeps by, and he has taken the 2nd place for the moment, and Malorque's done exactly the same as Gosby did. Now this is intriguing, because the 2 championship protagonists have stopped earlier than their teammates. Now then, and I think I just caught the end of Gosby having a huge moment on the exit of turn 7. Tail was out all the way. Now Burlak is now stuck behind Juicy, but I'm sure with the straight lines advantage he has and the fresher tyres, he will make a pass and he will get himself into P3 because he needs into P3 for the moment then. So Burlak then moves to the inside, down the pit straight, back straight, side by side, and Juicy does slot in behind. And Zot's going to have to be careful.
Malorki will try and defend surely from Van Starkenberg, even if it's only for a few corners, because that will help out his teammate Peter Burlak no end if he can catch up to Van Starkenberg at all. Van Starkenberg's going to try the outside. He does a little dummy there around the outside of turn 11. They're side by side, and he's going to take the position. Fantastic little dummy from Van Starkenberg before he takes that one on the outside of Edward Malorki. He does have the fresher tyres, but still an impressive little move there.
That was quite close because Van Starkenberg, there was a bit of contact between the two of them, so that could have ended in disaster if it was a bit more severe. But now Gosby this time, does he stay to the right this time and pit? Surely he must do. No, he carries on again.
Is he trying a different strategy?
I'm not sure, but his pit request light has been on for 2 laps now. So I am quite puzzled as to what's going on here. Malorki however, is pitting. And I think possibly that the Precision Motorsports team are realising that Gosby can't keep the position from Burlak, so they're switching into, as you said, to an alternate strategy. So they're asking Gosby to stay out for a few more laps. And I wonder if they're trying to do one stop less, I wonder. Because I reckon that it's going to be a obviously, I think most cars are going to run a 2-stopper in this evening's race as we go towards the evening and the darkness. But obviously we started in twilight, we're now going towards the night time, of course. I wonder if Precision have switched Gosby onto a 1-stop here. And they said to Martin, okay, we know that Burlak ultimately is going to be quicker on these fresher tyres. Run for as long as you can on the 1-stop, because of course when you get to the end of the stint on that second stint, on the second set of tyres that he runs, second set of hard compound tyres, then he will of course be running lighter, so of course he can get away with running a couple of laps longer and not suffering too much degradation.
Yeah, the only thing is, if his tyres fall off too much, then he will lose a heap of time, and Burlak will surely pass him by the time of the next stops. It's really about making those tyres last now for Martin Gosby, which you have to say it didn't look like he was doing earlier. It's quite a weird strategy for him to go on, perhaps, based on the evidence Ho's driving earlier. But perhaps now he doesn't have that pressure from behind of Peter Burlak. Perhaps now he can just drive smoothly and efficiently. And he does seem to be doing that. He does seem to have adjusted his driving style. He's no longer kicking up all that dirt, and now he goes into the pits. So I'm not sure about that, because he only drove an extra 2 laps, and during that time Burlak has surely closed the gap and surely is going to jump him. So I'm not sure if that was such a good idea.
I believe he has. Well, as you said, Precision realised that he can't keep the position, and Martin Gosby's left his pit box now. Burlak's down the pit straight, and I think Burlak has got it. He's got the undercut he needs. So that was a mistake from Martin Gosby and from Precision, and it has cost the Englishman second place in the race. And now the question is, with all this clear air, just what can Peter Burlak do to close in on Rob Van Starkenberg? The gap is currently 6.5 seconds between the 2 championship rivals. It's P2 in the championship, P1 in the race, versus P1 in the championship, who's P2 in the race. So, see how this plays out. Now, also I've noticed that Cyril Vermeulen has leapfrogged everyone Malorki in the pit stops as well. So that undercut's really worked for him too. And now what's happening is that Malorki is under threat from his sister teammate Mohammed Patel, and that's over P5. Juicy is in the background now in P7. Daniel Franco's remained in 8th position, with Danny Van Leet and Gennaro Celiento rounding out the top 10. Then Collaret's in 11th. Nick Rowland is still in 12th position, but I think he's possibly on worn tyres after his impromptu stop to replace his damaged front wing. And then Vasilev, Maskuli, Ostakovic and Niza are rounding out the 17 cars because Armando Mora has retired from the race. We've lost Armando Mora, and the remnants of Krista Young's car are in the pits. It's lost its entire front left section and its front wing, so that must have been a pretty hefty whack he took into the barrier. Nonetheless, we've lost 2 cars down to 17. What is a very thin field here at Abu Dhabi, so a chance for a few drivers who wouldn't normally get themselves to the points to possibly grab themselves a decent top 10 finish if other cars fall by the wayside.
Van Starkenberg is putting his mark on this new stint, because he's just set 3 purple sectors, a new fastest lap of the race, and he's much faster than Burlak at the moment, it would seem. And Gosby, in fact, is faster. One thing is that Gosby now has fresher tyres by a couple of laps than Peter Burlak. If he can get up to the back of him, I don't think that'll be enough to pass. I think they have shot themselves in the foot here, Precision. I think it was a mistake to keep Gosby out that long. I think they should have just got him in straight away as soon as Burlak went in. They should have come in the next lap and tried to cover him off. But for now, perhaps, if he can go an extra 2 laps on the next stint, then maybe he'll have a 4-lap pressure tyre, and maybe that can help him out on the pass, maybe.
A couple of our broadcast guys are actually thinking that potentially both of the Precision guys are on the soft compound tyre, and Burlak has gone for another stint on the hard compound. Has gone for a stint on the hard compound tyre. So that's pretty intriguing. Is that obviously they want Gosby to try and close in as much as he can and be a nuisance to Burlak if he can close in on the softs, and at the same time, for the advantage that Van Starkenburg has to try and extend that with a stint on the soft compound tyre. So this is intriguing. You say they shot themselves in the foot. We'll have to wait and see, because it might come back to them momentarily, and then they might fall off because Burlak is obviously going for a longer stint. But at the same time, if Burlak's going to be able to run a little bit longer, so Gosby using a lot of exit curve there as they go underneath what would be the hotel section. But of course, unfortunately, this build of Yas Marina doesn't have any buildings. We apologise for that. Probably it's been done for graphical purposes, so it's a bit easier to run. So we don't have any frame rate issues for any of the drivers. But Gosby's using a lot of exit curve through there. So I wonder how this is going to play out and how Precision can reel us back in. Because Gosby's done about 2 or 3 tenths quicker than Burlak did on that last lap. He's got the gap down to just under 2 seconds. So he is closing in, but I wonder if he can do it in a fast enough time before those soft tyres start to fall off the cliff.
Also, I think it's much more effective to be ahead of someone, slowing him down, than to try and be behind someone, hurrying him up. To be honest, I still don't think, even if he is on the softs and he's catching up to Burlak on the hards, I still don't think that's the best strategy from Precision. I think Twister have called this one right. Although not in the case of Milwaukee. It's funny, it's the 2 guys who are really competing for the championship that have got what I feel to be the right strategy, and the 2 guys who are trying to support them who have seemed to have got it wrong. So, in any case, if they have called it wrong, then they've called it wrong for the right driver.
If you want an example of just how much faster Gosby is on the soft tyre, he just took about 6 tenths of a second out of Burlak in that first sector alone. So Gosby is absolutely flying at the moment, and as we said, the more problems he can cause Burlak at this point in the race, then the more it helps Van Starkenburg. Of course, he's on the same compound tyre as his teammates, and at the moment the gap is now almost 10 seconds between Van Starkenburg and Burlak. This is actually playing beautifully into Precision's hands here, and that strategy called to put both their drivers all on the soft tyres. Burlak gets a huge tank slapper on the exit at the second to last corner. It's really falling into the hands of Precision, and they really have called it right. We thought they'd called it wrong, but a quick thinking from their team manager Andre Kunschmann has now possibly given them back what could be a decent result for them. And now Gosby showing how much more pace he has in those high-speed corners. It's all over the back of Burlak here. And
I think it really depends on whether Gosby can pass him here. This whole strategy depends on Gosby getting past Burlak and slowing him down, and it's right on the back of him. Will he have more luck than Burlak did? And he certainly seemed to have more straight line speed when Burlak was trying to attack him. And Gosby is already in the slipstream. Will he use the same harsh methods that he used to defend versus Burlak? He's going to the inside in turn number 8. He's just got a wheel alongside. He's going to dive to the inside. Can he run his car wide on the exit? And he takes the apex well. Brilliant driving from Gosby. Can Burlak do anything about it? No, he's fallen behind. So Gosby, a really great overtake there. He stuck his car in and he drove right across the apex to stop Burlak having any chance to come back.
Brilliant pass from Marty Gosby, just showing the advantage of being that softer compound tyre. Of course, with the better traction, he was able just to pull away off the corners. And I think Gosby's already going to utilise that compound to its full effect, because already he's starting just to create a car length or so to Burlak behind. So there was talk that, you know, the Precision think about every eventuality and what strategy they'd run with it, and of course their strategists have called it right on this occasion. And I think they've just gone and trumped Twister, and I think Twister, Burlak! Second last corner again using the the curb to try and turn the car, and the car was incredibly sideways. I thought the car was almost going to go into the wall, but somehow Burlak stopped it.
It's that turn 20 he's having problems with repeatedly. He keeps taking so much curb to, like you say, to help him to turn on the entrance, that sometimes he gets it all wrong and it just slips up, and he's done that 3 times now, and surely that's a warning sign. He can't keep saving it over and over again. He's got to be more careful. What he has to do now is to not panic. Gosby's ahead of him, but he has the harder compound. What he's got to do now is just run consistent laps and hopefully eventually start to reel Gosby back in.
But at this rate already, if you look at how much he's pulled out, the gap is already up to almost 2 seconds on this softer compound tyre. So Burlak can't afford to relax on this. And the fact that also, if he's using the curb to turn the car into the corner, the more he does that, the more he's going to take out of those tyres by sliding around and cause them to degrade faster than he'd like them to. So effectively, Burlak, not only can he not afford to just sit back and... In fact, he does have to worry, because he has to try and push as hard as he can. But of course, he's got to find that compromise of not pushing too hard and overheating the tyres and degrading them too much. Sliding around like that is not going to help him one bit. He needs to try and find the kind of the compromise, the middle ground in how do I push hard to try and keep with Gosby, or do I sit back to a certain extent, knowing that the 2 cars in front are on a softer compound tyre, and they will have to stop it probably one more time than I will. So this is something that Burlak's going to have to work out in his head here to try and make sure exactly what they're going to do. And I'm pretty sure that the Twister guys on the pit wall in his ear are going to be saying and thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, Burlak, I think what he's got to do is not panic. He's got to really just try and forget about Gosby for now, because he has the trump card that he has tyres that are going to last him longer. So he's got to realise that he's going to reel back in Gosby eventually, or if Gosby has to pit, then he's going to have to make one less pit stops. So Burlak, at the moment, he can just imagine in his head, even if it's not true, he can imagine he holds all the cards and just try and drive consistently and keep those tyres fresh and ready to go when he needs to put on some pace around the pit stops, because that is his trump card right now.
So wait and see. Oh, I've just caught, I think that was Zoltan Schuty running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1. Ostakovic. Now Luka Ostakovic has no front wing. Now then, what's happened there? Because he's running P15, and I can't see any other cars that are possibly coming to the pits that have any damage, so I'm probably he's done that all by himself. So, pit request light is on. He's going to try and hurry back to the pits in a similar situation that Nick Rutherford had a huge lock-up at turn 11. Has to cut the chicane. He simply doesn't have the front end grip to make the corner, and he's got 25 seconds ahead to Masculi ahead of him, and 23 seconds ahead of Nisa. So let's have a look. Now we're predicting possibly that Burlak will come in with about 15 laps to go. It'll be around lap 40, and of course, because of the lighter fuel load, he will then bolt on a set of soft tyres, and that strategy may start to come back towards Twister Racing near the end of that one.
Don't know quite what happened to Ostakovic, but he was right around Gosby when something happened, because he was right slow, I think, down after turn 7. So it maybe something happened there, perhaps out of the first corner or something like that. We've seen a few people slip up there, but certainly was right close to Gosby, and that would have been a scare for Gosby if he saw what happened, because he doesn't want to be crashing into any slow back markers right now. That wouldn't do his race a lot of good.
Well, maybe it was the fact that Gosby was going so fast, because he's been pulling away from Burlak at such a rate that they almost spooked Ostakovic. Maybe Gosby just closed on him so quickly that Ostakovic simply didn't expect it, and in his efforts to try and physically jump out of the way, just kind of got himself spooked and found himself clattering the barrier, and that's what's probably relieved him of his front wing. But thankfully Ostakovic is back out, and he's back out in, I believe, P16. Yes, he is. He's actually out just behind Santiago Nisa, so I'd like to think that he'll take him pretty quickly, because of course he'll have a new front wing and he'll have fresh tyres as well. So watch for those two, see if there's a position change in the next couple of laps. I'm pretty sure there will. And there's it. Apparently Ostakovic spun out of turn 1, so that's exactly what caused it. So I think we just called James Tucker Nostradamus, I think, because he definitely predicted that. And Rob and Starkebo apparently have to do a massive avoidance job in order to make sure he didn't collect the errant VS Racing car. And Unfortunately, I can't see because of the replay, but apparently it was a very, very close moment. And Rob van Starkenburg, I think let's just put it this way, is very lucky he's still leading this race and not in the pits right now, getting a front wing of his own.
That would be a complete disaster, wouldn't it? With championship implications. I can't imagine how Luka Rosikovic would feel if he mucked up the championship like that. He must feel terrible if that had happened, and must be feeling very relieved as well that it didn't right now.
Apparently he had to run right up to the wall off track, so that's just how much avoidance Van Starkenburg had to do. But thankfully he did manage to avoid it, and now he continues to lead this time by 8.3 seconds. But the gap is continuously coming down between Van Starkenburg and Martin Gosby. And Gosby has really solid pace, and he's one of, if not the quickest driver on his day. When everything goes right, when he's got the good car underneath him, when he feels good, he's done plenty of practice. You know, the track conditions are good. You know, he can find a rhythm, he can settle into a consistent pace. And I've seen it on occasions. I think one of the best occasion example was, of course, that controversial British Grand Prix for the World Championship, where he was running technically on the same pace as Bono Huis. And he was up there. He had the potential to win his home Grand Prix, but of course, because he was more committed to running in the World Series and running towards winning the championship here, rather than a World Championship Grand Prix, he decided to, on the track at least, drop back to 4th position behind Samuel Lebert of Twister Racing, and also his teammate for that race, Jack Keithley. Of course, at the moment, is still the reigning World Series champion until one of these three at the front relinquish him of his crown. And then Lebert was given a penalty for a major technical infringement, and Gosby finds himself promoted to 3rd place, and as a result he gets bumped to the top 10 of the championship. And the rules state that if any World Series driver happens to be in the top 10 for the World Championship, points wise, then their World Series status is effectively revoked until they drop back out of it again. So that's the reason why Gosby had to miss the German round at the Nürburgring, because of course, and not drive at all, because of course he couldn't drive in the World Series because he was in the top 10 in the championship, and he didn't drive in the World Championship because he wanted to drop back out of it again and wait for people to score ahead of him. Thankfully they did, and he returns to the next race in Hungary, and of course has racing ever since.
I was having this conversation with Lewis last time out, and I think that rule is completely ridiculous. I mean, what it should be is something more on the lines of, if you finish in the top 10 then you can't race in the World Series next year. But to say that just because of results you get in another series that you can't run World Series anymore is completely crazy, and I think it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We also saw, I'm trying to remember who, I think it was Jack Keithley giving up a podium at Valencia, I think it was, because of, this was last year, because he didn't want to lose World Series status. I think it's just crazy that we have drivers doing that, and I think FSR really do need to have a good look at that rule.
I had the thought of the concept possibly that if any driver is racing World Series and the World Championship on the same weekend, they can do so, but they have to do so in the knowledge that if they do race in the World Championship, any points they score, I mean, practically half of whatever points they score in World Championship are deducted from the points that they score in the World Series. So, for example, let's say if we go for, let's purely for example, if Berlak was to win this race here, 50 points, and then he races tomorrow in the World Championship and gets 3rd place. 3rd place in the World Championship is worth 18 points. So if you take half of that, because he races the World Championship, you take 9 points away from the 50 that he scored in the World Series race, because technically he overall scores 43 points from the weekend here in Abu Dhabi. That's a rule I personally came up with. I'm not sure if it will really work. It's just a kind of a brainstorm that I threw out there, an idea I've had for a while. But it could be something that could possibly just force drivers to choose between, do they race in the World Series or do they go in the World Championship? They have to choose one or the other. They can't do both, possibly. That's confusion.
I don't see why drivers can't just choose at the start of the year which series they're running in, and then if they want to run in another series, they can run in it, but they can't get points in it. That seems to make sense to me. Or
at least go to the extent where they're not actually contributing towards the team's championship.
Yeah,
because they do that. And obviously, you do get some teams, of course, they run a 3rd car, of course, or a 2nd driver, or a driver who they used to do it with the World Rally Championship, when they had, obviously, a good example, they had 2 or 3 teams that had 2 or 3 drivers to run, and they would pick certain drivers to pick for manufacturers' points. So if they're going to do that, if they can do that, effectively have at least one driver, regular driver, who is down for team constructors points or teams points, whatever you want to call it. But if they do have to switch drivers out because they take a World Series driver and put him in the World Championship car for the race the next day, then of course it's free for him to race, and that's fine. And his drivers' championship points will count. But any points you score will not go towards the constructors' total in the World Championship, because of course he's not a World Championship driver.
Yeah, that's one solution. There's plenty of solutions, but I think the current solution that there is at the moment is a little silly when you have drivers that are slowing down on the track in order to try and get a different finish in the World Series, World Championship, or whatever higher league they're playing in. It appears Rob van Sterkenberg has pitted right now, and he's come out in 3rd place.
He has indeed. Someone's crashed also. We've just been hearing. Now, who is that has crashed? Let's have a look. Oh, it's Eros Pasculi. Now, Eros Pasculi is down the back straight. Leaders are going past him right now, and Eros Pasculi has no front wing, and his front right quarter, that's his entire suspension and wheel assembly, has completely gone missing. And he's having to park it, I think, at the turn 8 chicane. He's trying to make it round back to the pits, but I don't
sure this is a bit fruitless.
I don't see how Pescara can replace a whole wheel and suspension corner at once, but of course that's not really possible in our fact. I think it has been done before in some cases, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's possibly, that's him done and dusted. I'm also seeing on my screen, on race screen, next to the pit request light, it's kind of like I'm not sure if either Jaakko or Sam can tell me what it is, but it's a light which is kind of it's the top part's red and the bottom part's green. So if anyone could possibly tell me what that means, because I'm getting that on my screen, I'm not quite sure what that entails. Apparently it is illegal to run on the track with only 3 wheels. So Eros Pasculi is not doing himself very many favours by trying to get the car back to the pits.
You obviously didn't get the memo that it's illegal.
It's fixable apparently, but it is against the rules. So whatever happens, I think Pasculi will find himself getting.
Gosby's just exiting the pits. Sorry to interrupt there, Scott, but Gosby is exiting, and where is he going to come out? That's really crucial now that he's in clean air, and it appears that he is. So Gosby's, he's got miles of clean air ahead of him, and now he's got to use these new tyres to try and get ahead of Peter Balak, who now takes the lead of the race. So Gosby's got to use these new tyres to his advantage to stop Balak from using the harder tyres that he's on to get ahead. In fact,
meanwhile,
it's possible Balak will have to pit. Like you said, around lap 40. Did you say? So
yes, that was a prediction.
Perhaps what Gosby has to do then is if he's on harder tyres, then Gosby certainly has to make these last. If he's on soft tyres, then he has to catch up. I think we'll see in the next few laps what tyre type Gosby's on by exactly how he drives.
Meanwhile, our 3-wheeler, Eros Pasculi, has finally made it back to the pits. And I've just been told, apparently by Sam Jones, our broadcast director, the red and green light means a stop and go penalty. So that's what Eros Pasculi's been given. Now, as far as I can see, Pasculi's going back out, but with only 3 wheels.
Peter Balak and Rob van Sterkenberg are right together on the track right now. Van Sterkenberg obviously is a pit stop up, and he should pass him really easily, but will Balak give him any trouble, because these two are battling for the championship right now. So Van Sterkenberg's got to get past him quickly, so Balak doesn't feel tempted perhaps to try and do so. I'm not saying that Balak would crash him off, but perhaps if he crowded him out a little bit, then he could cause Van Sterkenberg some problems. So Van Sterkenberg's got to get past as fast as possible before Balak can really damage his race.
Well, they have to be careful, because I know for a fact Eros Pasculi is still going out there. He came into the pits and he pitted, and he hasn't actually got that front assembly fixed. And there he is, in fact. He's still going. What is Eros Pasculi doing?
He should just retire from the race right now. It's really stupid what he's doing.
Meanwhile, Van Sterkenberg is now right on the gearbox of Van Sterkenberg. Here he comes to the inside, down the back straight, but that's forced him to the inside. He won't give this position up without a fight. And down towards the braking zone for turn 8, up the inside, and Van Sterkenberg is into the lead once again of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here at the Yas Marina circuit under the lights here. And apparently Pasculi served his penalty before he fixed his car. So he's got out again with 3 wheels.
Surely he gets another penalty. No, Jordan would get another penalty now.
That sure is a never-ending cycle. He will get another penalty, and in fact, he's starting again at turn 8.
Crazy. That's completely mental.
I've seen drivers try and get round with damaged cars, but I've never seen that in all of the sim racing commentary I've done. Masculine is still going round without without a right front wheel and suspension assembly, and without a front wing. Pit request light is on, and he's still doing 150 miles an hour down the back straight. I know Italians are crazy, but that's taking it to another level. So
I've never thought that Eros Masculi would be the sort of driver to do this. He's never been that odd in terms of how he drives. I can't believe he thought it would be better to take the penalty than to fix his car and take the penalty the next time by. I don't know how he could possibly be thinking that. Gosby, by the way, is setting a fastest lap right now. He's going really fast as Gosby. He's going over a second faster than his teammate Rob van Starkenburg. So perhaps Gosby's gone for the softs once more to try and catch up to Burlak before lap 40, which you would need to be doing in the next 5 laps. He's going 3 seconds of that faster, so surely, well, 2 seconds of that faster. Wow. 2.8 actually, so Gosby has to catch up to him in about the next 5 laps, pass him, and then they're both going to pit at the same time and probably run to the end. It's probably the strategy they're going to do here.
that would suggest then that both the precision cars are on a 3-stopper, whereas Burlak is trying to stretch out a 2-stopper on this one, and causing Hill will go to the softs, as we said, in about, we think about 5 laps time. As we continue and watch this one, back rest of the field, we look down. Malorki's in P4, and that's intriguing. I think either Verbula's pitted, or he's had a mistake somewhere, because Malorki and Patel are through. In fact, he has pitted. Thank you for that, Jaakko. Malorki and Patel have gone through, so Verbula has pitted from what was P4. So it's now Malorki P4, Patel P5, and then Verbula in 6th, with Masuti 7th, Franco in 8th, Ostakovic in not. No, Ostakovic is not 9th, that's actually Danny Van Den Eesen. Gennaro Celiento is still 10th, Kolarets is 11th, Vasilev is 12th, Nick Rowland's still 13th, Luka Ostakovic 14th, Santiago Niza is 15th, and lo and behold, Masculi's in the pits, and would you believe it, that right front quarter is back on once again. So the miracles of our back to pit crews, eh? They can replace a whole right front assembly just like that with a click of your fingers.
Here's one I made earlier, perhaps.
It's probably that Lego just bolts on, it's kind of like just snaps on, kind of like on there. So there you go. There's your suspension unit. Now go on, off you go.
Here's your new engine. There we go. I'm not quite sure how you'd have got around the track without an engine, though. Mind you, Masculi managed pretty well without a wheel, so that was an interesting piece of driving from Masculi. How far? He's 2 laps down now, about 125 seconds, so nearly 2 minutes, or over 2 minutes in fact, behind the next placed car. So that's an interesting bit of driving from Eros Masculi. At least he'll get points for finishing, I suppose, now.
I guess if you didn't have an engine, I guess the alternative would probably be a running wheel and a small field mouse called Gerald, and I think you probably can see where that goes with that one. Anyway, moving back to the front, and what's the gap now for the leaders? It's now 4 seconds already. Van Starkenburg really stretching out this advantage on these soft compound tyres. So the 3-stopper is definitely the fastest strategy, and you can see that as Van Starkenburg is about to come up and lap his sister teammate Nick Rowland at the moment. Of course, so that's going to be pretty intriguing how that works out, but Van Starkenburg will get through.
And Gosby is closing up so much on Burlak, you're right. I think that Precision have called this exactly right, and Twister, going for the 2-start with Peter Burlak, have called it wrong. We thought perhaps that they'd chop themselves in the foot, but those soft tyres have proven to be faster than the hards. It's just a faster strategy, and we're being told by our friends in race control and broadcast control that they're so thorough, the Precision team, with their strategy sheets, with working out which is the fastest, and it seems to have paid good for them here today, because Gosby is surely going to catch and pass Burlak in the next 2 laps. Last lap he was 1.8 seconds faster than Burlak, and as long as he passes him before lap 50, lap 40 even, around the time that Burlak pits, as long as he passes him before Burlak pits, then he should be absolutely fine to get that Precision 1-2, and most importantly, to get in between Rob van Starkenburg and Peter Burlak and score as many points in the championship for Rob van Starkenburg compared to Peter Burlak. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. If you guys are in the chat and watching, if you do have any questions at all for myself and James, of course, in the range of this race, then please do be sure to get them in, and we can try and answer best we can. Meanwhile, closest battle on track now is battle for P5. Mohammed Patel has been closed down by Cyril Vermeulen, and also in the process has now dropped away from Malorqui, and I'm pretty sure Vermeulen has enough of a toe to at least set himself up for a pass down in the end of the second straight, but Vermeulen going left and then right again as Patel defends that inside line, and Vermeulen will have the better exit. He'll have a tidier run through the exit now through the kink of turn 10, and Vermeulen all over the back of Patel as they head now down the back straight. And Vermeulen will go to his outside, darts back in with a slipstream to get a bit more of a toe. Will he try and outbrake him down the outside? No, Patel holds on, forced to lock up. Vermeulen clouts the curb on the inside of 11, and still Patel stays ahead. So good defensive driving from Patel.
Vermeulen is so close there on the exit of turn 14, but there's just no space in this section of the track to make any passes, but he was right on the back of Patel still.
And the natural light is completely faded now from the Yas Marina circuit, and we are now under floodlights. And Gosby's now only 0.8 away from Verlac, and that gap is getting smaller by the 10 almost at every single corner. It was 0.8 of a second, it's a lot closer than that now. It's actually now less than half a second. So Gosby, I'm sure, will get a better run. He takes a tighter run, and Verlac locked up into the turn 7 hairpin, and with the fresher, softer compound tyres, he will certainly get a better run off the corner. Now they've got Nick Rowland to try and get through, I'm sure they will do in a second. But Gosby's doing everything he can to try and get second place.
Look how dark it is there in that little section of the back straight.
It's also quite dark through turn 1 as well, so some of the lights don't really stretch as far as they should do, but still, that's the whole atmosphere of running in a night race, and or a twilight race in fact. Now Cyril Vermeulen is once again looking to go for another pass on Mohamed Patel. 4P5, Vermeulen being forced off the inside. Patel trying to make the point that Vermeulen is not coming through on the inside, but Vermeulen was not taking no for an answer and couldn't quite get around him.
Gosby hit Verlac there. Sorry to interrupt, but Gosby actually touched Verlac on the exit of turn 14. He got so much better exit on these new tyres, these soft tyres, compared to Verlac's old hard tyres. He's hit him again in turn number 17. He's trying to pass underneath the hotel section. There's just no space. He's so much faster. It's ridiculous. On the break into turn 11, he nearly hit the back of him again because Verlac has a pit so much earlier, and he goes up the inside of turn 20. That's a corner where Verlac has been having problems, and he's just had another one in the form of Martin Gosby, who passes and goes back to restore the precision 1-2. It's Van Starkenberg from Gosby once again.
That, I think you'll agree, was a little bit too forceful, so we'll come back to him in a second if Verlac can hold with him at all. Let's look back at Cyril Vermeulen then. They come to that exact same spot, and Patel is doing everything he can to hold him. He runs a little bit wide towards the last corner. You can see he's feeling the pressure, doing everything he can to hold off the Dutchman behind him. And now, back towards the pit wall they go. Onto lap 40. This is probably the lap we're expecting, roughly around Verlac to make his second and final stop onto those soft compound tyres. Vermeulen is really giving Patel the hurry up here. And Patel's a little bit faster through these sweeping corners, but I think under braking through this the knick-knack chicanes you've got through here at the Yas Marina, the very stop and start sections, that Vermeulen does have the better mechanical grip through the slow speed corners. Because he really does close. He's got that better grip as well, the better life in those tyres, and he's certainly making the most of it right now.
An interesting strategy decision coming out for Gosby, because he's got to decide whether to cover Peter Verlac by pitting again, or whether he feels good enough on these tyres to go to the end. I suspect he'll cover Verlac because he has no reason to stay out and try and do something special when all he has to do is finish second. We're getting news from Jaakko that Gosby does have to pit again, which would make sense because all he has to do is cover off Verlac, who will surely pit in the next couple of laps. What he's got to not do though is stay out too long. If Gosby stays out too long and allows Verlac to get a jump on him in the pit stops, then he'll have to pass him all over again. You won't want that. He thought it was a bit forceful to pass, and there in turn 20. It's definitely not a place we saw many drivers pass. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a pass there in F1, GP2, anything. But the thing is, he was just so much faster. It was like two different classes in a Le Mans race or something. He was so much faster, Martin Gosby, than Peter Verlac on those tyres.
So I'm just watching the battle again between Patel and Vermeulen, and had another small little rubbing of wheels once again at the end of the turn 11, 12 and 13 chicane. A couple more bits of tyre rubbing. But Patel now has a small bit of advantage. Look how dark it is at turn 1. You see, there's no light covering it there, so it's almost like you're going through pitch black. It's incredible how dark that is through there. But looking back at the front, and Van Starkenberg leads by almost 8 seconds, and Gosby is now 1.5 seconds ahead of Burlak now for P3. Malorkwi has now P4. Patel is still holding off Vermeulen for P5. With Juicy now back in P7 in kind of no man's land. From kind of 7th downwards, the rest of the field is kind of all on its own really. Zucchi's down in 7th. Daniel Franco's way back in 8th position. Some 20 seconds back. Celiento is now up to P9th, and Antonio Collarets rounds out the top 10 for Venus Project Racing. Danny Van Den Niet is now 11th. Total Vaslav up in P12. Good run from him in the Netrex Tradition car. Good to see that Netrex have one car from each of their 3 stables, which is the Works team, the Academy team, and the Tradition team, all still running. So good job from that. Nick Rowland is still going in 13th place. But I'm sure he'll be very disappointed with this race so far. It's not really gone the way he wanted to. That the early race mistakes that he made, of course, as we talked about, his late allocation, and then he had the contact in the first couple of corners. Then he lost his front wing on the exit of the turn, exiting turn 9 when he nosed the barrier, and it's all kind of been very subdued from then on. But I'm sure he'll try and bounce back for the season finale at Brazil. And Luka Ostakovic is actually running in 14th, and Eros Santiago needs a 15th. With Eros Masciuli, he once had 3 wheels on his wagon, running in 16th, but according to my graph, I'm not sure if it's just me, but on my graphical, on my screen, it's actually showing that Cyril Vermeulen is running, he's got that wheel replaced, but the suspension arms are not there anymore. So, and also he's had to cut the first part of the first chicane into the first back straight, so he's definitely struggling out there at the moment, even though he's back in P16.
That is a funny graphic. I just take a look at Eros Masciuli. If you can get that up, Jaakko, on the screen, it does look very funny. He has a wheel which is completely floating, independent of the rest of the car. So due to the magic of R-Factor, he's managed to fix it using, I presume, magic or some sort of dark arts, because he's got a wheel that's completely floating away from his car right now. Getting word that Cyril Vermeulen has pitted again, so that breaks up that battle with Mohamed Patel. And can I just say that David Franco, after sneaking into Q2, has done a great job keeping his 8th position, which is his best ever position in the World Series. He's matching that today. He got that in Singapore, so he's matching that P8 last time out, backing out with another good run.
I'll tell you what, Edmond Malorkwi just took a shortcut over the turn 11 chicane, so he obviously missed his braking point, but his pit request light is on. We'll expect him to make a stop. And Burlak is still going in P3, but he hasn't come into pit just yet, so obviously I'm wondering here, as Total Vaslav moves out of the way and allows Burlak to lap him, I'm wondering if this might turn out that Burlak might try and stop at the same time as one of, if not both, of the 2 precision cars, because of course they've got to pit again to go to another set of soft tyres for their 3rd and final stop, and Burlak of course can get away with that because the hard compound tyre has at least kept them within sight, at least, not within touching distance, but he's kept them in front of him at some point. So looking behind, Malorkwi and Patel have both come into the pits, and Vermeulen is now through turn 1. Now then, I wonder, is Vermeulen going to get the undercut here? Because Malorkwi comes out, and he's ahead of Patel, so he's got past him in the pits, and he's on the back of Malorkwi. This has really worked out for Vermeulen. He could potentially get himself P4 here. Those tyres are fresh, they are obviously 1 lap older.
They're warm as well though, aren't they?
They're up to temperature. So this is now going to be for P4 on the road. Vermeulen's tyres are almost at optimum temperature. Malorkwi's of course stone cold, and he's being forced to defend. You can see he's getting desperate to the inside. Vermeulen trying to get P4 and on straight line speed alone gets himself in front before the braking zone. Has to brake himself, and off he goes. Lost the rear end, and I think there was a bit of desperation there. And I wonder, because Vermeulen did cut in front of Malorkwi, and I wonder if that took the Spaniard by surprise, and as a result, it's now just put him out and spun him round. Now what that's done is that's put Patel ironically back in front, and now it's basically the same scenario we had before the pit stops all over again. Vermeulen on the rear of Patel, trying to get through, but of course, again, Patel's in the same situation as Malorkwi. Malorkwi's tyres are still getting up to temperature, Vermeulen's are, so we'll have to wait and see. Vermeulen should technically get past pretty easy, but of course, as we've heard the famous Murray Walker say once, catching is one thing, but passing is most certainly another, and Vermeulen is proving that point exceptionally well.
I think you called it about right. I think Vermeulen, by cutting in front of Malorkwi, what he did was he just caught him off guard, and then Malorki just braked far too late because he has those cold tyres and he can't brake as early as Bergmuller can, and I think Bergmuller should have realised that, in fact, and should have realised that that was going to happen, and now he's lost out to Patel, and Patel has had his lap now and his tyres will be up to temperature, so Bergmuller there has cost himself, you have to feel, the chance at perhaps a fourth, unless he can now pass Patel, but Patel has 1 lap pressure tyres now.
I can tell you that Precision are getting ready to receive both of their cars. So Van Starkenberg and Gosby have put their pit request lights on, and I believe, unless they're going to be deceptive as they were in the first, well, at least Gosby was in the first stint, or running 2 laps longer, I believe we're going to see both of them peel off into the pits this time around. Now Van Starkenberg's doing the second to last corner. Does he stay to the right? Looks like he might do. Yes, he does. So Van Starkenberg, race leader, is in for his final stop. Does Gosby follow him in? Let's have a look. He does. So both Precision cars are in.
How will Burlak react?
I wonder. With his pit request light's not on, I think it's too late to put it on as well. So Burlak, I think, will probably carry on for another lap. And I think now that he'll see that both Precision cars are pitted, he will pit at the end of this lap. Now then, Van Starkenberg's got away easy. I'm thinking Burlak must have pitted already. So
yeah, he was way behind there. I think he might have pitted and we just missed it.
So if that's the case, the chase is on then. And Starkenberg is already out and away on that final set of soft tyres.
Gosby and Burlak now, because Burlak pitted already. But Gosby, yeah, you're right, Gosby's got it. I was trying to make a mountain out of a molehill there. I thought if Burlak had pitted a lap early, he might have been able to do a stupendous outlap in order to get close to Gosby. And he looked like he did do a good job because he's closer than he was before. He was 2.8 seconds before the pit stops. And now that gap looked closer to about a second, I would say. But still, a great job from Martin Gosby to get out in second and protect this Precision 1-2.
Just heard apparently he pissed the lap before, so end of lap 43 there, so obviously trying to get in the undercut, and it gained him a couple of tenths, but it seems as though Gosby's still got the outright pace. He's actually taking back those tenths that he lost through that one, as Cyril Verbuel there behind is giving Patel's still some headaches, as Juty's now having to relinquish P4 from Malorki, and he retains that place. Juty's still yet to make his pit stop, and again Patel gets defensive down towards turn 8, but Verbuel under brakes. He won't sweep around the outside, but it'll definitely help his line. Oh, and Verbuel getting a little bit twitchy on the exit of turn 8, the first part of that chicane, and that really did compromise Verbuel's exit onto the second back straight. Now then, what can he do down towards turn 11? Will he make a dive? No. Switches to the outside of the braking zone, and again Verbuel getting very squirrely on the throttle and the exit of these corners, so whether or not he's taken too much out of them in the early laps, or whether he's just getting caught up in that dirty air effect, I'm not 100%, but we will have to wait and see if Verbuel can do anything, because for the moment Patel seems as though he's got enough of an advantage to just about keep Verbuel at bay on the twisty sections at least.
Bergmuller must be so annoyed for himself because he finally got the pit strategy right. He got out ahead of Patel, he got out close to Malorki, and then he mucked it all up by trying to pass Malorki and pulling in just a little bit too close to him and making that contact, and then off the track at turn 8, because he was past this guy. He must have thought he'd done it, and now he has to do it all over again. Meanwhile, Burlak is setting a fast lap time, 1:39.7. I believe that might be the first time we've seen the 39s in this race so far, Scott.
Believe so. I haven't got the live timing out, so I might have to check that. If someone could possibly check the live timing for it. Actually, no, we could probably look at that in a second. But I'm looking pretty intriguing. Just watch, I can see Antonio Coloret's putting a lap on Eros Masculi in P11. A couple more pisses. We've got Gennaro Celiento in from what was P9. And also Zoltan Schuty's got his pit request lights on too, so he's coming in from P5. And of course, what's crucial is that it's going to be Patel who wins out in the battle for 5th position in the championship for this round at least, because of course Schuty starts to pit, and Patel is he's trying to make his move up the inside, and Schuty shut the door into turn 11. And if he could, Patel, if we could see it, Patel will be sure to be gesticulating at the Hungarian right now, saying, "What on earth are you doing?" It's the position, so Schuty has a right to defend, but Patel, he's just going to drive clean around the outside. Surely not. Bit of contact, then forced him wide, and Patel sticks his nose in, runs deep at the next corner. Schuty's back up the inside, but he has to pit on this lap. What is he doing?
There's no reason to do this, and all he's doing is costing Patel a lot of time. He's costing Patel so much time in his battle with Verbo, and now he pulls into the pits. What's the point in that?
You have to pit anyway. There was no point in that. So, and now that's now just let Verbo straight back onto Patel's tail. So, Shuti's done nothing. But then again, I can understand the reason probably why he did it, because he wanted to try and cause as much of a nuisance as he could to Patel, because of course those two are fighting over 5th in the championship. So the more of a hard time he can give Patel.
Right, you've cracked the code.
So I had to think about that one and to go back on my words. The more that headaches he could cause Patel, the more chance he could get of possibly allowing Vermeulen to pass him, which means it nullifies just the effect of how many points that Patel could take out of duty in the battle for 5th.
That makes perfect sense, actually. Zoltan Suti's a lot cleverer than us, it would appear. That was a good move from Zoltan Suti to defend so hard against Patel, because, like you say, if Vermeulen now passes him because of Suti's actions, then that's a result for him. Because he'll only lose, he'll only lose 5 points instead of 10. Would that be right? Something like that.
I think so. I need to look at how the points are going to work out in terms of how it looks. But back at the front then, on to lap 48 and 55 as Mascudi comes back into the pits for whatever reason. Probably trying to retrieve that suspension unit he's missing. Van Starkenberg is still leads now by 4.5 seconds or so, just over 4.5 seconds. From Martin Gosby, just put another lap on Santiago Niza. Peter Burlak is now in 3rd place. He set another fast lap of the race recently on 39.5, with now Malorqui in P4, Patel in P5, and then Vermeulen still in P6. Duty rejoined from that pit stop in P7, but of course he's on much fresher tyres. Franco now still in P8, doing a grand job for Positive Sim Race. They'll be very pleased with that. And then 9th and 10th is having a bit of a scrap. Here's a fight. Van der Neet and Celiento. Needs to be rather quiet. They duelled briefly at the beginning of the race, but rather close. Celiento closes in on grabbing himself a couple more points. So of course, the points go down to about 12, and effectively it's kind of 13th onwards. They all get 10 points anyway, so we'll have to wait and see how that's going to play out for those guys. Collerett's still in P11. So still he'll get himself a decent result, but he's just about to lap his teammate Luka Rostakovic. So that's I wonder if Antonio will give him a friendly wave as he goes past. Todor Vasilev is P12, with Nick Rowland still in P13. Real shame that his race hasn't turned out how he really planned, but of course his whole weekend's kind of been one he'd probably rather forget. Rostakovic P14, Santiago needs a P15, and Eros Mascudi P16. And of course he's had all sorts of adventures today in and out of the pit lane, and as it turns out, Pescara couldn't retrieve that suspension unit, and so that right front wheel is still floating as independently of the whole car.
Eros Mascudi in the case of the floating wheel.
Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Carry on. I was trying to see where Van der Neet went to, but he's reappeared on my screen. Apologies for that. Carry on.
Right, there's another case. The case of the disappearing Danny Van der Neet. I'm just looking at the lap times that Gosby and Burlak are swapping, and at first Burlak actually cut down on Gosby's lead over Burlak, but Gosby has responded brilliantly. Last lap 140.077 to Burlak's 140.5, so Gosby under a little bit of pressure, but he's responded brilliantly to try and protect that position 1-2, and more importantly keep the gap between Van Starkenberg and Burlak in the championship, because those points that Gosby is taking are points that Burlak is not taking, and that's crucial for precision.
That's very true. And still the battle goes on between Van der Neet and Celiento as they head through the complex, and I have to admit Van der Neet doing everything he can to hold on from the Brem GP driver. Doing a good job so far. And moving forwards into up towards the final sector, and if you're able to see it, of course you'd see a fantastic hotel display with all the multi-color changing colours and everything and it's a fantastic sight. And it's just a shame that graphically we couldn't bring it to you on this build of Race Marina that we have. But circuit-wise, we do have some stuff like the circuit lighting and whatnot. So, and the pit buildings at least. So we've got the basics that we need. And Celiento trying to go around the outside of Van der Neet. Well, that wasn't going to work. And these two really going at it hammer and tongs. It might even be for 9th place, but he's still putting on a great show for you guys, hopefully. And you are enjoying this battle. Down towards turns 5 and 6. The quick left-right. And then the slowest corner of the circuit. Down to first gear, down to some 60 kilometres an hour, and Cheliento almost hit the rear wheel of Van der Neet. He was so desperate to get up the inside, always trying to get literally inside the Netrex car.
I don't know why so many drivers do that. They sacrifice all their exit speed by getting greedy into that turn 7 hairpin. It's almost like that turn 7 hairpin invites you to try and pressure the driver in front, but what you really should be doing is backing off and trying to get the speed down the straight. It's just a cleverly designed corner, I think, but it might work out for Cheliento because he's right behind him now on the run down to turn 11. Van der Neet can defend if he knows how to do it. He can stay close to that wall, force Cheliento to the outside. Can Cheliento outbrake him into turn 11? He's going to stay right around the outside. That's a fantastic pass by Cheliento. He just stayed solid right around the corner. He didn't move for a second from his line. He is having a small lockup, but a really fantastic pass from Cheliento there because he just stuck at it on the outside of turn 11.
Brilliant stuff from Cheliento. That was a grand pass from the Brem PP driver. He's up in the 9th place at the expense of that Netrex Academy car. And, but of course that's the point in the Netrex Academy, to try and bring through drivers like Danny Van der Neet. Of course, whilst it might have been a mistake, he'll learn from that and he will push on to try and get better. So
yeah, he might have given Cheliento a bit too much space there on the outside. You have to feel he had a full half car whip there. He could have perhaps pressured him more and then got him in the second part of that corner, because that's kind of how that corner works, that you can give them a little bit of space into it and then take it all away on exit.
What's intriguing is that Van Starkenburg is now, the gap between him and Gosby has been coming down bit by bit. I noticed it last time I saw it was about 6 seconds. It's come down to about 4.5 now, so Gosby is just, he's been chipping away at Van Starkenburg's advantage bit by bit, but just not at a quick enough rate to cause him any problems and to take away the race victory. Because of course I think Gosby really, looking at scoring points, of course, Van Starkenburg will take 50 points, Gosby's going to take 40, and Burlak will take 30. So if I look at the points table quickly, so I can try and work this out,
because they're equal at the moment, so it'll be a 20-point swing to Van Starkenburg, and that's all thanks to his teammate Martin Gosby. I think you're right. Martin Gosby's running faster right now because I think he is faster. I think he's been the faster driver today. I think he's played the good teammate for Van Starkenburg in keeping Burlak behind, making sure Burlak finishes in 3rd instead of 2nd. I think Martin Gosby probably could have tried to win this race and maybe been successful at it if he'd given it everything, but I think he's done the good thing for the teammate today.
Well, looking at how the points are right now, because Burlak will get 30 points for his 3rd place, so that puts him on 475. Van Starkenburg's win will put him on 495. Gosby, his 2nd place, would put him on 435. So looking at the advantage there, 435. So effectively, if the result stays as how it is pretty much, Gosby's out of the championship because he'll be down by 60 points compared to Van Starkenburg. It'll be 495 compared to 435. So Gosby's champion chances will be done at the end of this race. So there'll be a 20-point difference as far as I can work out between Burlak and Van Starkenburg, with Van Starkenburg on top, which then says to me that Burlak in the next round will need to win. Oh, there was a car off. There was Danny Van der Neet, in fact. It was Danny Van der Neet was off.
Gosby's made a big mistake as well. Gosby's made a big mistake. Massive mistake.
He has. And then there's Burlak. Burlak up the inside. That's a P2. That's crucial.
That is absolutely crucial for the championship, and that is not what Precision wanted. They needed that 1-2 in order for Burlak to be 20 points behind Van Starkenburg rather than 10 points behind. It was just in that chicane. I was on board with him, just watching nonchalantly. He just seemed to outbrake himself. I don't know what he was doing. Perhaps he did have a point to prove that he was faster than his teammate today. That's absolutely crazy.
We've seen the replay, and Gosby might not be done just yet because actually you think he's got enough pace to go back on Burlak. Ooh, trying to get back up the inside, but I don't think he was going to try and make that move stick. It wasn't going to work, I don't think. So he's trying hard, but I'm not sure. I think possibly there's enough left in there to potentially try and make this. Well, I think Gosby's got enough, left in reserve to try and get 2nd place back, because he's giving Burlak all sorts of headaches right now. But of course, if it was to stay like this, it means that the gap would then be down to just 10 points. So effectively, all Burlak would need to do is win the race, and that's it.
Win the race and it'll be done, yeah.
It'll be done. So Burlak would need to win. If Van Starkenburg was going to win the championship, he would need to do it, but he would need to make sure that Burlak did not finish higher than 3rd.
Gosby is key in winning Precision, the Drivers' Championship in the World Series. He needs to get past Burlak here. I think I don't know why he was pushing that hard. I think perhaps he did have a point to prove that he was the faster precision driver today, but all he had to do was just stay back, just get through the last portion of the race. There's only a few laps to go, and instead what happened was he mucked up on the first part of the curve, then in trying to correct he went way wide, and then he went way wide again. And look, he's slipping. Look at that, a double wiggle out of turn 7, and that allows Burlack way down the straight. He must be kicking himself for his mistake, but it appears that he does have a lot of straight line speed, so if he can just stay consistent, stay behind Burlack through turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and try and pass, then it looks like he's got the straight line speed to get past him. But he'll run out of laps if he's not careful. It's absolutely crucial for the championship.
I think potentially his tyres might be starting to go a little bit compared to Burlack's. Burlack's are, well, not actually say that, but Burlack's are actually a lap older. So, but I think maybe Gosby's used them up a bit, but used his up more than Burlack has in trying to close in the gap bit by bit to Van Starkenburg. So that could,
which he didn't need to do.
He didn't really
need to do that.
It looks as though, from what we saw, he took too much that mistake earlier on. As you see, he took too much curve at the first part of the chicane, and that just put the car out of shape. And of course, as a result of that, he then had to try and avoid that. And I wonder if that was possibly due to the fact that he saw Van der Neat go off, and as a result, thought that Van der Neat would come back off the track or would cause him a problem, and then stood on the anchors, and that's what possibly going over or that caused a distraction, forced Gosby to take too much curve, and as a result of that, that's what caused the accident. Or not the accident, but the mistake.
That might be a very good point, Scott. That could be exactly what happened. Gosby could have had that in his mirrors, and he looked like he just lacked concentration for that split second, and then that led to another thing because he went wide again, and he went wide again trying to overcorrect. So it looks like it could be exactly that. Now he's got to get through the chicane right this time, and he is. He's got to stay close through turn 7 now,
he needs a clean
and
exit.
he is. He's got to perfect the exit, and it is a good exit.
It's not bad.
Ish, but Burlack gets a better one by the looks of things. Now he's got to try and follow, and if he can't make it into turn 8, then he's got to try and follow through into turn 11 and try and do a pass around the outside, like we saw Shadiento do. Now he's up the inside. That was clever from Burlack. I think Burlack left the door open there so that Gosby would lose a little bit of time, and I think that was a little bit clever driving actually there from Peter Burlack.
If he can't get it done this lap, he'll have one final opportunity next time by, because of course it is next time across the line. It is going to be the final lap, and Van Starkenburg is going to have to. Van Starkenburg is effectively, there's something tragic happens. I don't want to put the commentator's curse on it, but he's going to take another victory, his 4th win of the season. But that went a bit wide there through the exit of the complex, and Gosby's all over the back of him. Oh, the front wing! Oh, but Gosby lost his front wing. Oh, and that's it. That sealed it. Gosby is going to be finishing, well, not even 3rd, I don't think. I don't think Gosby will finish 3rd. Because he's going to have to pit unless he struggles round. Oh dear, he's got plus 30 seconds.
He's got one lap, but it's not worth it, is it? Oh,
so that's it. That has sealed the result then. Gosby got a little too desperate and just hit the rear of Burlack's car. It might have damaged slightly a bit of Burlack's suspension of the rear of the car, but that has pretty much finished off Martin Gosby's championship charge, if it hadn't finished it already. And technically that means that he is free to race now if he wanted to in Brazil, at the final round in Brazil in the final round of the World Championship if he wanted to. And of course he could even contribute possibly to GT Omega's attempts at getting himself into second place in the team's championship past Ghost Speed. But ironically, haven't actually turned up today. There's no Ghost Speed cars present or any Ash Racing cars. I don't think Ash Racing do compete in the World Series, but nonetheless, Rob Van Starkenburg is now about half a lap away from securing his 5th win of the season, and vital points, a vital result that he needed in order to secure himself any logical chance of winning the championship. And Danny Van der Neet's had an accident and lost both front and rear wings as Van Starkenburg moves past him, so cars are falling by the wayside. But what a drive it's been from Rob once again, and he's technically set the pace. He took the lead from his teammate at the end of lap 2, and since then has not looked back in anger at all. He has not put a wheel wrong whatsoever. Had a bit of a risky moment earlier on, but he now can go into Brazil full of confidence and on form. Round the final corner for the last time, Rob Van Starkenburg takes a crucial victory in Abu Dhabi, and the victory here at Yas Marina, and that was well needed. He's so happy with that, and rightly so. Peter Burlack holds on to second. He's lost the championship lead, but he only goes in behind 10 points back into the final round in Brazil. Martin Gosby does hold on to third place, but it could have been so much more if he'd been a little bit more patient. And then we wait for the rest of the cars to come through. Malorka will come home in 4th position. Patel will come home in 5th, and Verdmüller's got himself a stop-and-go penalty for some reason. Now, what? Oh, Verdmüller's off. Verdmüller is off the road and into the barriers. Now then, I'm wondering, was there contact with Patel somewhere around? Because there was a huge gap. And now then, if we get a replay of what's happened with Verdmüller and Patel, and maybe Sam, you can talk us through it if you can have a look at it. But actually, we're predicting possibly he's lost brakes, so that's quite crucial. But he's going to finish the race in the pit lane, so oh well, needs must for Verdmüller, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened though with Verdmüller, but it could be that he lost brakes. Just going back to the incident with Gosby, I think it is due to the nature of that turn 15, 16, 17. We've seen Lewis Hamilton in F1 pull a pass there. It's somewhere where you can surprise your opponent, perhaps one of the less conventional overtaking zones on this track, because of the nature of the kind of double apex of 15, 16 and then into 17. If you just pull a bit tighter into 17, they can't see you coming in the mirrors. I think that's what he was trying to do, but he just misjudged it just by the tiniest bit. His rear wing made contact, and he lost. And his front wing even made contact with Peter Balak's car, and he lost it. And that's a real shame, because perhaps if he waited one more lap, he might have been able to do it.
Let's go through the final top 10. There's a couple more cars moved up through the results, but the final top 10, the final results of today's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and it is a victory, a crucial one at that for Rob van Starkenburg. He so desperately needed the 50 points and to finish ahead of Peter Burlak, and he did that today. So Peter Burlak takes second, and it's a 10-point gap going into the final race in a couple of weeks' time in Brazil. Third place goes to Martin Gosby, sans a front wing. Fourth goes to Edouard Malorque. And apparently, actually Mohamed Patel's finished 4th. So what's happened there? Now, was that, I wonder possibly if that was some team tactics to help Patel get 5th place in the championship.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's the case. So Patel was 4th. Patel was 4th. Malorque 5th. Schutte ended up in 6th position. 7th went to David Franco. Great job by David Franco. 7th place for him. And so well-earned points. A great result in the top 10. Gennaro Celiento earns 8th. Antonio Colleret's 9th. And despite all his troubles today, Nick Rowland still gets a top 10 finish. Top 10th place for him through all the chaos. Verdmüller ends up classified 11th. With Vasilev in 12th. Luka Ostakovic 13th. Danny Van Den Eek holds on for 14th despite Sands' front and rear wings. Santiago Niza finishes 15th. And Eros Pascu is 16th, but I'm pretty sure the stewards have something to say about that with his antics out on track today. And apart from that, the retirees were Armando Mora and Krista Young out of the, I believe, the 18 cars that we had on the grid. So I guess then, James, to wrap up the broadcast, final thoughts. Intriguing race, plenty of action, but more importantly, as we keep saying, a crucial result for Rob van Starkenburg. He desperately needed that. And it now means that we're set for a grandstand finale to this World Series title. It's going to be Van Starkenburg versus Burlak, and it'll all be decided. Effectively, whoever wins is champion.
Yeah, effectively, that's right, because of the extra wins Burlak has, the tiebreaker is wins, and Burlak cannot be caught in that tiebreaker by Rob van Starkenburg. So if Burlak wins, then it doesn't matter where Van Starkenburg comes, Burlak will be the champion. And if Van Starkenburg wins, he's already ahead, so he'll obviously win the championship. All Van Starkenburg has to do is finish ahead of Burlak. You could consider it that way. But if Gosby had managed to get that second, if he hadn't mucked up there in the final laps, then it would be so much easier for Van Starkenburg, because all he'd had to do is finish behind, one place behind Burlak. All he'd have to do is shadow Burlak. Now what he has to do is finish ahead. Most definitely.
So there you are. That's the end of the race then. Quick note then also for the other two races that are going on this weekend. Now, for anyone who's watching in the UK, a word of warning. Because tonight the clocks are going back an hour, because of course it's the end of summertime now, and it's no longer British summertime, of course. Now slight time changes. Effectively, the GMT times now apply for the UK as well. So for the World Trophy, it's 11:30 GMT, which means it'll be 11:30 here in the UK to watch that race. 11:30 in the morning. So don't miss that and think it's 12:30. And for the World Championship race tomorrow, it is going to be 4:15 GMT, which will also count for the UK as well. So 4:15 wherever you're watching in Europe, if Greenwich Mean Time, for the World Championship, and 11:30 AM tomorrow morning for the World Trophy, of course. The World Championship, of course, already been sewn up. Woodwiss is a 4-time champion. His first race since then, will he dominate again? And also, there's a potential. There's rumours around that Atse Kirchhoff is uncertain, but he might be coming back for this race, if not maybe Brazil. There's potential now that his other sim race commitments are done. Will he be back tomorrow? Will we see possibly Burlak in there as well? We don't know. All we know tomorrow is going to be a fantastic race. We've had a fantastic race today. Thank you very much, James, for tuning with me tonight.
It's been excellent. Thank you very much.
So from James and myself, Scott Woodwiss, and also Jaakko, Mikkonen, our cameraman today, and our broadcast director, Sam Jones, thank you very much for watching. This has been a Formula Sim Racing presentation live here on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you tomorrow for the World Trophy and the World Championship. But until then, bye for now.